C. Reilly's been a guy who's a dude for a while.
Right? And that's why.
I don't usually think of him as a guy who's a dude just because he's in so much.
And he's running good films.
He's been in very good films. He works both comedically and dramatically.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's definitely a guy who's a dude. He's just not... I think of him as, like, you know, A-list movie star usually rather than just character actor because he's in so much.
Very recognizable.
Very recognizable. They don't usually change up his look a ton. Like, he always just kind of looks like John C. Reilly, which, I mean, when you've got a face like that,
Yes.
that's a lot to work with right there anyway.
Yeah.
So, like, why even mess that up? No need to change it too much. We're going to be talking a lot about him this episode. Shout out to Drew's dad.
Why is that?
There's an inside joke that Drew and I have that John C. Reilly is his dad. Because there was a moment where Drew was a child. And I guess I'm telling the story secondhand. So, Drew, if you're listening, feel free to send in a correction. There's the story he told me about when he was, I think, 8 years old. And they were in Hesperia, I think. Not to like completely dox them, but they didn't live there. It's just they were visiting. Right. And his mom and him were like walking around, and his mom, I think, went up to him because, you know, she knew he was like a big fan of movies and like Step Brothers and all this stuff. And she was like, "Hey, I think there's someone that you might want to meet. Do you want to go meet them?" And Drew, not even making the connections just because he's a kid, was just like, "Oh, no, thanks. I'm good."
Oh.
And then I think he said later that day they like were walking somewhere, and then he walked past them. And he thinks that retrospectively it was John C. Reilly. Because I guess he lives in Michigan. Or at least he has like a house in
Hesperia.
Or like the area around it.
Rothbury?
Something, because like I guess he has like familial ties here in some way. I don't know if he was like born here. I can check real quick. John.
Well, let me do. I mean, is that the story?
I mean, that's
the
pretty
random
much.
Guy walked by Drew and he was like, "That's my dad."
But I make the joke that that's his dad because I think it's kind of funny. So, born in Chicago, Illinois, but I'm looking at his early life and education.
He's got a house in Pentwater.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That's probably what.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Recently in Maxime, Country Bakery, Rothbury had a special guest. Took a photo of some kids working there.
Oh, cool. He appreciates hard work.
Pentwater, stand-up guy. Yeah. Interest. God, gee, man. No. The more you know.
The more you know. Speaking of the more you know, it's time to intro.
Yeah.
You're not the boss of me, Jack. You're not the king of Dirk. I'm the boss of me. I'm the king of me. I'm Dirk Diggler. I'm the star. It's my Neon Crew podcast, and I say when we roll.
Yeah.
I feel like my Mark Wahlberg usually isn't that rusty. I feel like I can usually pull it out, and it's pretty...
He was acting his chops off.
Okay. I mean, I don't disagree at all. But he's very much a person who you can easily impersonate. I feel like
if you're good at impersonations.
If you're
or
good
even
at
mediocre.
I was just gonna say, like, I feel like he is identifiable enough, kind of like Arnold Schwarzenegger, where like more often than not, people could have a handle on him, right? You just gotta like breathe a lot and then talk really fast. It's just like, "Hey man, hey, we gotta talk about the bees. The bees are dying, man. What do you think about that? Huh? I'm Mark Wahlberg."
Yeah.
Like, that's probably like, you know, me on like a weaker day giving a Mark Wahlberg impersonation.
I'm not going to knock it. I think he, on the totem pole of like guys you walk to and just drop accents, like you do Arnold, everyone gets it. You do Mark Wahlberg, it might take a second.
People might have to like think about it for a second.
Yeah.
You have to go in with an exact quote. Because if you're just saying like random bullshit, it's just like, are you like hyperventilating, man? Like what's going on? Aggressive Bostonite? Is that who you're impersonating? We're, of course, talking about Mark Wahlberg from the movie Boogie Nights, which is a film we're going to discuss on episode 87 of the Neon Crew podcast. My name is Kyle.
I'm Mac.
We're back in our normal format.
Yeah.
We were talking about this before we recorded, but it feels so long in between episodes when we have to push one or make a delay or we miss one or whatever. which doesn't happen that often. This is like maybe the third time we've done this sort of thing, but
I think so.
In the like nearly 3 years we've been doing this podcast.
Yeah. But if you miss one, I mean, it's a month, so
it's a whole month. That's the sort of
there's the kick, right, or the rub.
Yeah, that's the fine print that we're dealing with.
Yeah.
On the that's the catch, as they say.
Yeah.
The catch 22.
It's a YP, not an MP.
Right, exactly. It's my problem, not your problem. I think I got that backwards. But either way, it's all good. It's all good. Maybe I'll fix it in the editing if I'm feeling spicy enough. But I guess we can just check in. How have we been doing? It's been a month since you've been over. It's been a month since I've seen you, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah. You
That's
told me some movies you watched.
Yeah, no. So one of the things that, we see a decent amount of films, but you listen to other podcasts and people talk, and it's like, man, I should really check out more. And obviously there's a time constraint. So,
right.
Get a little bit of downtime. I had the kid up with me, so makes it a little challenging to try to fit in, film. But I saw like, I don't know, probably 5-6 new movies. We were just talking about a couple of them.
Mm-hmm.
So that's been literally that's been about it. I mean, we got the wedding that we're getting ready for. We got
I'll insert some wedding nuptials in the editing here.
Yeah.
Not nuptials, some like a theme.
The bells?
Yeah, the bells, the chimes or whatever. I'll throw them in there.
So we're working on that, and and then it's just life as is. So football, for me, the winter months, I think what sucks too is winter gets to be so, at least in Michigan, dreary.
It's dreary and it stays for a while.
Yeah, it reminds me of Insomnia when Pacino went up there.
Yeah.
Have you seen Insomnia?
Let me sleep.
Yeah.
Let me sleep.
Just sitting in that fucking room, and it's just the sun.
Yeah, he's like got it all boarded up. Like the sun is still like piercing through.
He's trying to fucking. But it's like, it's that feeling of just not escaping. And for us, it's the darkness.
Yeah, what's her name? Maura Tierney comes in and she's like, what have you done to the room? And he's like, I can't sleep.
Yeah.
I can't sleep. I gotta find this guy. I gotta find him. Let me sleep.
That's a Christopher Nolan film too.
That is. It was his, I think, third one? It was the one he made after Memento, right?
Yeah, I think it's the third one. Because he had another one too right before it.
Well, I think it was Following was his first movie.
Yes.
And then I think Memento was his second.
Yeah, Memento got the big bucks.
And then after that was Insomnia.
Yeah.
And then from there, I think The Prestige and then Batman Begins, or I always get those two mixed up.
I mean, the Nolan timeline's whatever.
Yeah. Timeline. Something he's obsessed with.
Loves it.
Can't stop thinking about it.
Moving it around any way you can. I wonder what's in his closet.
So I can tell you what's in his closet.
Okay.
Because have you read about his next project coming up? This is something we can talk about.
Odyssey.
The Odyssey.
Yeah.
Which is, I don't know about you, but I feel like that's very exciting because it's probably going to be the most different type of movie that he'll have made up to this point,
what we
right?
think. I can't wait till like he starts out, and
unless it's like a modern day retelling. Yeah. He like fucking Baz Luhrmann's it with Romeo and Juliet.
Dude, no, I'm saying like
imagine
it being like Tenet or like Oppenheimer, where he's like layering timelines, so you're in different elements of where Odysseus is at.
Right. Piper's giving her thoughts. I think she's excited because she says more and more creatures, please.
Yeah.
Boo-boos.
Getting a little bit more socialization. Yeah, I'm interested in it for sure. It's Nolan. I can't wait to see how bland the characters are. It's been a really eye-opening thing talking about
how bland the characters are.
Oh my god, dude! Well, I've listened to some other people talk about Oppenheimer because I'm just kind of at work, just throw on a podcast, right? Mm-hmm. And it's just listening to people talk about these films. So I wanted to go back and listen to Oppenheimer, and also because I'm reading the book, so I wanted to get kind of a different perception.
American Prometheus.
Yes. Shout out and a plug. And they're talking about Nolan and just how has his writing gone down because his brother's not on the stuff anymore with him. Like his brother isn't helping him write these scripts anymore. Mm-hmm. And then I'm talking to Sam and we're talking about Batman, and then all of a sudden I'm starting to think about the Batman characters, and I'm like he he is a spectacle with the camera and the action and capturing everything that's going around. Yet the characters that he's got in his hands like are just blah. You know, I don't know if he really arouses anything out of these guys. I mean,
right.
Earlier films, maybe, right? But like his later stuff, like, I mean, Tenet
is the biggest offender of everything that is wrong with a Christopher Nolan movie, in my opinion.
Right.
Like, it is quite the... It's a movie in which this is kind of like maybe a little bit hacky to say, but I truly think that it at a lot of times feels like a parody of a Nolan film rather than just like a solid Christopher Nolan epic movie, you know?
Yeah, but so now we're talking about Tale as Old as Time.
Have you read The Odyssey? I'm assuming you have, right? Or at least you know of it.
I know the points of it. Like I think I've read it, but that was way back when. So I mean, I remember there's like
it's usually assigned reading in like high school or something.
That's what, and then they usually build this is how you build an act structure, or this is how you get your rising conflicts or whatever it's called, the rising action, falling action. Yeah, anyways,
like as a template for like Joseph Campbell's hero's journey.
Yes.
So the cast so far in this film, Matt Damon is the first one that's billed, followed by Tom Holland.
I wonder who Matt Damon's gonna be.
Right? I think he's gonna be the sea serpent.
Yeah, right.
We'll just use some. They'll use practical effects, no CGI here.
Mm-hmm.
Zendaya, Anne Hathaway, Lupita Nyong'o, Robert Pattinson, and Charlize Theron. Quite the cast already, and I'm assuming it's just going to add more and more big names to it.
Of course, who doesn't want to be in a Nolan film?
I can only speculate, and it's been a long time since I've read the story, but obviously Matt Damon's playing Odysseus, right? That's kind of what we can assume. Maybe the older
or the...
I think they'll probably do some like makeup to make him look younger. And
you don't think Tom Holland's gonna be younger?
I feel like Tom Holland's gonna be the son that stays back, and then
helping out with mom.
And then I think Anne Hathaway is gonna be Penelope,
Penelope,
because she's someone who I think can still play like kind of young if they add some effects to her, and then like as time goes on, because this is like a long spanning. Like decades worth of story, right? We think.
Who knows what Nolan's gonna do?
Right. It could literally. He could just.
I'm gonna take the Odyssey.
He could go bug nuts with it
on its head.
Right. I'm gonna set it on an aircraft carrier instead. The sea serpent's gonna be a nuclear missile, or whatever the fuck.
That fucking Odysseus' son has to stop.
The
all while reversing in time, Benjamin Button style.
The one-eyed Cyclops is gonna be Vladimir Putin.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, shit. I'm looking forward to seeing what he does with it. Hopefully it will be treated as like, a big budget, not historical epic, but like, mythological epic.
I'm sure he will. I mean, the one thing that I'm not going to knock the guy, because we were butting heads a little bit, me and my brother on it. I was like,
you and your brother butting heads? That doesn't sound like you guys.
He was, he's the Batman films, which hopefully at some point we get him as a guest on here. And
I've said it before. I would love to do that.
I'll figure out a schedule
for sure,
because we've been talking about it, and now I'm going down this shit listening to him, and I'm like, fuck. Like now I'm agreeing with some of his ideas, but I was like, you can't knock the guy though. I mean, he gets your ass in a seat. He puts on a great movie.
Something so undeniable about Christopher Nolan as a filmmaker.
Yeah,
that like you have to admit that he works on so many levels.
He does a great. One of the things I'll never forget is one of our buddies. When we saw Inception, we were talking about the show don't tell. Mm-hmm. A lot of times people have issues with that show don't tell. Like there's got to be some exposition in there about why is it this way or why
right.
And you might not need it, unless it's Armageddon and you're getting fire out in space. Then you might want to have a reasoning to how you're defying physics and the laws of chemistry. So outside of that, the Inception stuff, the guys just go to sleep. They got a fucking plastic wire going into them, and that's it, right? That's it. That's all we're gonna do. We're not gonna spend any time going into the mechanics of it.
Well, that movie just does a really good job of explaining the technology and how it works while it's showing you like visually what's going on.
Yeah, but not the mechanical side of it. Not this is how the machine operates. This is what's in the machine. This is like how the machine's
not that stuff,
built.
but like just kind of like what it does to you.
Right. And that's what I'm saying. It's used as a medium to get you from A to B, right?
Mm-hmm.
It carries you. But
like we don't need to learn about like the inner machinations of this thing, or like, we got this from like, a wacky uranium technology or whatever. Just like, you fucking flip it on and you go into a dream state.
Found this 20,000 years ago and we only just discovered now how to use it. Like
right. I think
like
the most you get is that, they used it in the military and now it's like,
it's whatever.
Being used for
but
thievery.
He does a great job of just presenting it and then just going, here you are, either accept it or reject it. Right?
Yes.
Even the Batman films, like, seeing logistics is always something that pops up with those things. I'm like, how? But I'm like, I got to give the dude credit because at the time, you're not really thinking about that stuff. It takes you, it took me probably 3 or 4 times rewatching The Dark Knight to be like, hold on one second, wait a minute. Like it's just, and you got to applaud directors that can do that because really bad ones, when stuff like that happens, you catch it right away and it takes you out of the film and all of a sudden you're critiquing everything. So I'm like, you got to give the man his due. Even Oppenheimer, I liked it and I'm probably going to enjoy it much more on another rewatch.
Right. After you read your book too.
Yeah. And, but I think to take a story and I don't want to call it bland. I think it's quite fascinating, but to the average viewer, very bland. Right. And to make it somewhat interesting, come on.
Absolutely.
So it'd be exciting to see what he does with the Odyssey.
Same as someone who is a literature nerd, as someone who is, had his fair share of mythological stories that I've come across.
I can't wait till he fucks this up, but actually like makes it better. And then like you're gonna see it for a 4th time and be like, no, it actually sucks.
Right. It totally could be just like an emotional roller coaster.
Pulled the wool over my head again. God damn it.
Right. Fucking Nolan, man. He did it again. We'll see what he does. July 2026 is the release date. We've got some time to sit on this one.
There's a couple. Is that when the new is that Doomsday coming out or the Secret Wars coming out in 2026 too?
I think so. Right?
Yeah.
I don't exactly know, but
it's really hard to fathom that we're just in 2025 right now.
Don't make me think about it any more than I have to.
Yeah.
Let's just talk about something delightful, happy, cheerful, like Mark Wahlberg's penis. And of course, I'm talking about
brings a smile to everyone's face.
Boogie Nights.
Yeah.
Yep. He's got something special in his pants, and he's just waiting to show the world.
Burt Reynolds.
So I want to make a request, since technically both the films that we're talking about in this episode are of my choosing.
Well, you pick the one you want to talk about, and I'll do the other one.
I want to do Boogie Nights.
Okay.
Because I want to try to see you explain Bucky Larson, Born to Be a Star.
Fuck.
Like how you summate
well, it's
that.
very simple. I'll tell you that.
Sure. I'm being amused at the idea already. But the first one we're going to discuss is Boogie Nights because I feel like this one's going to have a lot of juice that we can squeeze out of the lemon.
Oh, man.
So
take it away.
This is, I think, Paul Thomas Anderson's second film. It's written and directed by him after, I think,
Hard Eight.
I almost said 8 Mile, but that was not correct.
Way off.
Oh,
you got an 8 in there.
And is about the golden age of porn in the 1970s and the sort of fall that takes place in the 80s with like the change of formats and the different ways people perceive the art form, if you will, if I can be so bold as to call it that. But it stars Mark Wahlberg as this young dishwasher who is spotted by this prolific porn director played by Burt Reynolds, who plays Jack Horner.
Yes.
And he spots Eddie Adams in a like kind of club restaurant as like
club.
It's basically a club.
Yeah. As
a dishwasher, he goes up to him and says, "I got a feeling about you, kid. You got something special in your pants, and you're just waiting to show the world." And he takes Mark Wahlberg kind of under his wing, sort of grooms him to be a adult film star because he's packing heat. He's packing heat in them there jeans.
He's got something special.
And it sort of just, it chronicles not only the life of Mark Wahlberg's character going through this, but also the lives of the people around him who, you know, they have different positions when it comes to the movies. Pun not intended when I said positions, but, you know, there's going to be a lot of that in this discussion.
Yeah.
You've got great performances from Mark Wahlberg, Julianne Moore, Burt Reynolds, Don Cheadle, John C. Reilly, Drew, otherwise known as Drew's dad, William H. Macy, Heather Graham, Philip Seymour Hoffman, Louise Guzman, Philip Baker Hall, Thomas Jane. I could go on and on and on, but there's just so many people in this movie
Todd Parker,
just bringing
Thomas
their
Jane.
game. And we follow the life of porn star Eddie Adams, also known as Dirk Diggler. Let's get into Paul Thomas Anderson's Boogie Nights. So this is, I think, the second PTA movie we're talking about, right? We talked about Magnolia a long time ago. I don't think we've officially discussed.
There Will Be Blood's going to be. That was a movie I rewatched.
There Will Be Blood.
Oh, dude!
When we talk about that movie,
rewatched that over Christmas, over the break, I guess you'd say. Yeah.
Can I tell you? Should I tell you my idea for when we do cover that movie, or should I just leave it as like a
cliffhanger? We'll talk about it. Yeah, we'll come back to it. I'm sure we'll probably pop back up.
Because that's one I do want to talk about soon.
Yes.
Being one of my favorite movies, and I know it's one of yours. This movie, there's certain expectations, I think, when you go into a PTA movie, if you've already seen a few of his. You know, I watched Punch Drunk Love not that long ago. I watched, obviously, There Will Be Blood, Magnolia, The Master. There's certain things in which, like, you can kind of safely expect from his movies. Even something like Licorice Pizza, which, you know, wasn't a movie I was huge on. There's certain qualities that I knew were going to be like a guarantee. So, really great performances, first and foremost. I think Paul Thomas Anderson is a master of directing actors. Yes. And obviously, he's got his players that, you know, he'll come to work with later down the road pretty regularly, like John C. Reilly, Philip Seymour Hoffman, Julianne Moore. But this is, I think, really like the first time he was really able to prove himself, right? Because I don't know that much about Hard Eight. I haven't seen it before.
It's a good one. Philip Baker Hall.
Okay.
Is that his name? He's in it. Samuel L. Jackson's in it.
That sounds right. And I think he's in this movie too.
Philip Seymour Hoffman's in it.
Yeah. But that movie wasn't one that was like, you know, a huge star-studded
like
cast,
following.
right?
Yeah. Like you get. I don't know how he got the people in it.
Right.
You know,
exactly. He got like an insane. He was in his 20s, I think, when he made this film, right?
For Boogie Nights?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't...
Like 26 years old, I think I read.
Really, he's got to have some connections or word on the street, right? Because, I mean,
like, this guy's got some cred.
The other thing, too, is, like, so Mark Wahlberg, this is what, 97 when this came out?
97, yeah.
Yeah, so, like, Mark Wahlberg is not Mark Wahlberg. Like, he's still... Good Vibrations,
Marky Mark, Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch.
Like he had Fear. Like he's been in a couple. Like, you know, good looking guy. Throw him in your film. Use him as a marketing device, right? And then Heather Graham was in this.
Mm-hmm.
This was, I think, one of her first movies, and she, you know, signed on to do it. Burt Reynolds probably being of the most notoriety in this.
Yeah. Because like the biggest name.
It's crazy. I think one of the things that's fun, but also kind of crazy, is like this is made, what, 27 years ago, right? So you got to look back and think like, all right, we know all these characters. We know their household names now, but in 97 watching this.
Like most of these people are just like, who are these people?
Getting Don Cheadle's in this
Who's
thing?
Don Cheadle? Who's this John C. Reilly? Like,
that's what, you know, so it's kind of hard, like looking back on it being like, oh my God, you know, that's so-and-so. But at the time, like none of these people had their names, and they probably, it's like you'd say credit this film, but some of them don't.
We can get into that later because I do have thoughts about that.
Yeah, but yeah. I mean, this is an ensemble cast, and at the time, probably wasn't.
And it's funny too because it's not like it's not like these people were in this film, gave really great performances, and then just kind of like fell off like a couple years later. It's like, no, these are people who have like stayed strong in like the Hollywood presence. Like fucking Don Cheadle, obviously, like say what you will about the Marvel movies, but at least he's carved himself a place.
Dude, you make it in a Marvel movie, I say you've made it, because they're not hiring Joe Blow off the street. Like they not to say fucked up, but they got the Jonathan Majors guy, and now he's got the domestic violence. Like, so I think they're very cautious, because it also plays into other financial streamlines of money, you know, where if they make a wrong error, it's going to impact other things happening. And because of, anyways, yes.
Julianne Moore obviously is like very prestigious status as an actress in Hollywood. Fucking John C. Reilly obviously carved himself a place in like comedy, but also has like retained those dramatic chops. Like most everybody in this movie has just like, they've just fucking stayed.
Yeah, oh yeah. I mean, and you got to probably credit this thing. Not only that, but I mean, this movie, go off the premise alone of the synopsis and walk up to a random person and like give it to him and then say, all right, now where would you rank this in like movies ever made? Just hearing this alone, where would you fathom that this would be at? Like, so it's a real
like older seasoned porn director finds a 17-year-old kid, gets him to join the industry because he's got a big dick.
Yeah.
Like, how many tickets are you selling just based on that description?
Yeah,
it's not like this movie was like, you know, a wild success. It made like 43.1 million against like a 15 mil budget, so it was successful, but it wasn't like, you know, wasn't like raking in the like heaps of money.
Given the context of the film, I would say that it did pretty well.
Right, exactly.
You know, but I know it's a credit to the film, and also that this thing is much deeper than just, you know, we're gonna make a satire on like on the porn industry. You know, like this thing's got a lot of chops,
and obviously it is being satirical in points. But I think really the main focus of what makes this movie work is the focus on the characters, is the focus on the environment, how everything sort of like unfolds, and how it affects all of these people in this sort of sphere.
It's a little bit of a, I mean,
it's kind of like this feels like it's setting the groundwork for like a Magnolia or something, right?
You know, like watching it, I just couldn't help feeling that this is like a dysfunctional family. Like this is almost Internal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
Absolutely, because like these people are always tied together. They like always keep like coming back to each other in some way.
I mean, Julianne Moore's like claiming these kids as, you know, or these people as her kids. You got Jack Horner, who's like the dad figure of it all. He's running the crew, and then you got all these young faces in here that are growing up, kind of learning about, you know, the industry or the environment together and how to navigate this thing. And then you see some of the, you know, how even in families, if you know, like shit, if you had a family of 6 and one of the brothers takes off and says, fuck this, fuck that, and all of a sudden it's because dad did something, you know, like you're going to see a breakdown of the family dynamic. Right. And that's what happens in this. And it's so interesting just to watch it in that perspective.
Right.
Because it really makes it feel fucked up too.
And
you know,
it does. And it's definitely touching on like, the negatives of like associating yourself with like the adult film industry and like getting involved in like that scene at that specific time period. But you're right. It also just feels like this movie is saying, hey, if your family sort of structure just breaks down, everybody's going to be negatively affected by it I mean, in some way or another. Everyone's going to be having a bad time.
Straight up not having a good time, bro.
Because this movie could just really easily do the thing of, Mark Wahlberg's character is fired, he goes in a downward spiral, but everybody else, like, their lives improve in some way or another. And I'm glad it doesn't do that, where like every character feels like, just because of like the change in times and like the mindset of like the porn industry at the time and like the changes it went through, it feels like everybody's like coping with this shift.
It's mimicking what they're going through and how much they are attached to the identity of the porn industry. And yet, I don't want to say discovering themselves, because ultimately very little change happens.
I was going to say, they do kind of figure things out, but then they also just sort of start right back where they were.
Well, they go back, and that's where you get this dysfunctional family sense, is that people cope, they air their grievances, they make amends, and then they come back, and that's more so where this kind of like, if you're looking at it through a character perspective, none of them, you're like, oh, I mean, maybe Don Cheadle is the one that gets rewarded out of all of this, but if you look at it in the group sense, you have the rise, the fall, and then the coming together, and that's a little bit more of how I felt, at least with what was going on. And while once the group fell apart, it's also mimicking the times that they're going through, all these changes that they're not well adverse to handle.
Right, exactly. Like the difference in like porn consumption and like the marketing of that. And also just like, just coping with like the idea of time moving on past your own relevancy, right?
Yes.
Because when Mark Wahlberg returns, it feels very much like the prodigal son has come back, and now things are like starting to gel back together again.
It's so so they have a great, the ending scene. They're all together at the pool, and it's kind of back at it's almost like, hey, clean up your room. Hey, don't forget to do this. All right, honey, I'll see you when I get back from work. Like,
hey, sweetheart, dinner's on the table.
Yeah. And you just can't help but then think like, all right, did they make the change, or is this it? They found each other and are going to embrace each other, and hopefully, Jack makes enough movies, or maybe they shift with the times, or is this it? Their lives are just kind of back to now they're normal people. I mean, like, they go from, Eddie went from being on top of his game to like, who knows if he gets back into it.
Right, like jerking off in some guy's truck for like $10.
Oh man, I did not think that'd make a comeback because he says that remember when Jackie gets back there, and he's like, hey, who are you? He goes, hey, I'm Eddie. He goes, oh, cool. What do you do, Eddie? He's like, all right, let's cut to the chase. 5 for me to show you, 10 for me to jack off. He's like, what?
Right.
And you're like, oh man, that's awful. And then it comes back to it, and then you just know how low
it's even worse.
Eddie is. Yeah.
Absolutely. So let's hone in on specific performances. I think we need to talk about the Mark Wahlberg of it all, because he's someone who a lot of people are very mixed on. I think I am pro Mark Wahlberg when you utilize him well.
Oh, come on, that's like it's got to be a thumbs up, thumbs down. Like you see Mark Wahlberg's going to be in a film. Are you going, all right, I'm going to check that out because it's Mark, or are you going, I can't trust it just because I know how much variation I get?
It has to be within like a specific set of parameters, right? It's not like this guy is a chameleon where you can just let him loose and have him play anybody, like Gary Oldman.
To some extent, because I'm going to say then that holds true for a lot. Like Tom Cruise, I could make the same. All right, if it's an action film, for sure.
I think that is kind of true for Tom Cruise to an extent. I think Tom Cruise is given a little bit more grace as to like the genres of movies that he's able to be in, right?
If you're an average moviegoer, I would say you just have to have the name alone. Like, if just put yourself in his shoes of, you don't talk about it, you get out, you see films, you know some names. If Mark Wahlberg's up on the marketing board because he's got his new movie coming out, Flight or whatever the fuck it's called, are you like, I'm gonna check it out? I don't know if I trust Mark, but I like him enough of what I've seen him in. Or are you going, I don't know what I'm gonna get, I'm waiting until it comes out to streaming?
If you're me, I'm looking at it thinking, I don't know if he's hit the mark here. Because if he's playing someone like in Departed,
you're not. You got to be the average moviegoer.
I physically cannot be.
I think you can't, because I'm going to tell you right now, I'm staying away. Like, I like Mark Wahlberg. I think the dude's got some decent performances under him.
Yes.
But there's way too much of the, I don't know what I'm going to get out of him. I mean, like, have you seen Father Stu? Have you seen, name some of his, like, The Happening, which I have not seen?
Well, that's sort of like the point I'm drawing to.
Well, I know it.
Right? It's like,
could make
you put him in The Happening as, like, a fucking science teacher. It's like, of course this guy's going to flounder, because I think he does best when he's playing characters of this type, where, like, you can sort of hone the role around what his personality sort of is. Like, he's good at playing cops, criminals, fucking meatheads, sporting guys,
Pain and Gain,
a porn star,
Invincible. Like, I get that. I think it's just, yeah, I can make an argument for me wanting to see any character if I know what I'm going to get out of them.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, if I know the movie and I know, like, yeah, I can really narrow it in and say that Mark Wahlberg's going to suit me right. I'm just saying, like, you got to go off just the name alone and just say, all right, has he done it? Or like John C. Reilly in a film, you're going to be excited once you see the name.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter what it might be.
Right.
You know? And I think that there's a couple, like, you have some small, like Scoot McNairy we talk about. You know, and then you got the heavy hitters, like you got Leonardo DiCaprio, De Niro when he was at the pinnacle. Like De Niro now, probably not.
Yeah.
But, you know, and I'm not in this, him in this one, fantastic.
Fucking great. Fucking
Man.
fantastic. I think it's like one of my favorite movies that he's in that I've seen.
Yeah.
I watched The Fighter not that long ago. Have you seen that film?
Dude, I love The Fighter.
I thought it was good. I enjoyed it. Fucking Christian Bale is good at playing a ghoul. In movies
Christian
like
Bale's
that.
a guy. If he's in a film, I'm going to check it out.
Right, exactly. He's a guarantee. But it's sort of almost like the opposite of The Fighter, because in The Fighter, he's like, you know, obviously he's got stuff to prove, kind of like in this movie, but he's very kind of like meek. He's a little bit lower energy.
Yeah.
I like him a
He's
lot
more
in that film.
reserved, then he's probably got some abuse.
Right. He doesn't
You
feel
know?
like as big of like a loudmouth in that movie. Whereas this one, I think it makes like the best use out of his loudmouth ability, especially later in the movie. Because he's good at like the start of the film. He's, you know, he says to Burt Reynolds like, "Oh, I'm 17," which, by the way, he was like 25 when he filmed this movie, sporting that haircut that I had in fucking middle school. Like, little hard to suspend my disbelief that he was 17, but sure.
I think that this movie was like Mark Wahlberg's life, like leading up. You know, Entourage is based on his. Like,
I think
personal.
I heard somewhere that was the case.
Like, if you think about,
because he's like a producer on that show, right?
Yeah, it follows. That's why he's a producer on it, because he has all these fucking stories about him with his Goonies or
with his
bros
entourage.
Yeah, and so, but I mean, like this, I feel like was just a natural step into him. Like, hey, you're just gonna be yourself, just with a different name. You know,
I think that the most impressed I am is in the beginning when he is able to sort of play this boyishness, this sort of like unsurety about everything when he's like first getting involved.
little innocent.
Yeah, there's like an innocent sort of wonder to him about like, oh wow, I'm gonna be a star because I've got a big dick.
Yeah,
I can't believe it. Like there's this sort of like wide-eyed boyish nature about him that
Yeah.
I think it manages to portray perfectly. And then like it transitions so well into like him being like kind of full of himself, a little too cocky, a little bit too like just confident about being a porn star with a big dick.
well, I
like-
mean, he played it well. I mean,
Yeah, he did.
It's
Like-
gonna be. It's probably pretty close to how, unless you're, calculated, unless you have a good mental awareness about yourself, and you also know how to navigate.
Mm-hmm.
You throw anyone in that scenario, like they're gonna. I gotta imagine that's the rise and fall of like your average porn star.
Yeah, he's able to very believably play someone whose ego has been stroked so much that when he does fall, it becomes all the more tragic because he's just unable to cope with it in like any healthy way.
Yes,
I think that's very good.
I my favorite scene with him it's probably two. The one at the pool. He's like, I'm not filming you in this state. I know what fucking state I'm in. I'm in the state of California. What the fuck does that have to do with anything, Jack? And then, like him, because it's just so believable how angry he is.
How angry he is and how kind of dumb he is.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying like his ego's taken over to that point, and
Right.
he has at first, as he's going along, he's learning how to be cool and how to have conversation, and he's lying about shit. Like they go to get the Italian shoes, and he just starts making shit up, talking to Heather Graham on the dance floor, and by the end of it. And you can see how stupid he is, and then you get to that point, and anything he says is the right answer. Like anything he says, like if he says this is how we're going to direct it, I block my own sex scenes, because I know how to do it. I'm the director. Like in his head, that's where he's living at.
It's almost like he's sort of living in his own fantasy world
Yeah,
at a lot of
and
different
it's-
points in this movie. Because like there's the idea that like, yeah, he's got the confidence to say shit that's like clearly not true. But also there's the idea of like he's going into this industry because he just wants to be a famous star. And you can clearly tell, like, just based on his room at his like parents' house, that he's got a reverence for like Bruce Lee and like kung fu action movies and like all this stuff. Yeah. He's a kid, and he's like, he just wants to be a part of that world, you know, no matter what. And like, if he has to justify it in his mind of like, oh yeah, I'm an actor. I get to do these scenes. I get to fuck, but I also get to do these like cool action moves. I get to point a gun. Yep. Like all this cool stuff. Like it feels very in line with like, yes, this is like the perfect fit for Mark Wahlberg.
Oh yeah, it was. I mean, I really think he's just playing himself. And the other one I really liked is when they're at Alfred Molina's house, the drug dealer, and he just
when Alfred Molina comes in and he just like juices this movie up for like 10 solid minutes. Holy shit,
dude.
I think I heard somewhere that he was in this, and then I forgot, and then when he popped up I was like genuinely surprised. I was like, oh shit, it's Alfred Molina.
Well, you know, they're like, we're gonna fucking rob a drug dealer. You can already tell like stuff's going sideways. And then they get in there and they're like, that guy's got a gun. Clearly, all of them in over their heads.
That guy's got a gun. His like henchman is testing out the cocaine.
Dude, it's like, on paper, this is flawless. And then it's like, well, what if he tests the drug? And it's like, well, we'll deal with it when we get there, which is the dumbest. Dude, all of these guys, it was so uncomfortable watching that scene because all of these guys are so in over their head. Mm-hmm. One of them blindly enthusiastic that it's going to work out because God told me it will, versus John C. Reilly, who's clearly uncomfortable and just along for the ride because he's attached himself to anything that Dirk Diggler does.
Well, also Todd had his own plan going into it of like, I'm going to rob this guy, which he doesn't tell Mark Wahlberg or John C. Reilly. Right,
that's what I'm saying. Like, he's in his head of this is going to work, and he's also, you know, coked out of his fucking mind. They're doing meth. And then my favorite is just Dirk sitting there as like Molina, they're testing the drug. Molina's like, I'll be back. I'm going to grab this or grab the money. And it just shows Dirk. And he has this sense of like, where the fuck am I at and what am I doing? Mm-hmm. And he's just so out of touch with everything. He's just living in his own moment. And he's having like this moment epiphany of Jesus Christ, you know, like where are we at?
Like,
and then
it's one of those like, I have those when I watch certain movies like Blue Velvet, where it's just like, how the fuck did these characters get in this situation?
Yeah.
Or like you even go through certain bouts of life where you just kind of like stop and think to yourself, like, how did I get here? Like, what brought me to this like horrible situation?
Yeah, exactly.
It very much reminded me of that.
It was perfect. I mean, like,
very perfect.
And it's sitting there, and then all of a sudden they hit the shot, and you're just like, and it feels like it's just hanging forever because they're trying to. I think John C. Reilly's is telling him like, Dirk, we got to get out of here. You know, it's just so much chaos going on. It's just like.
That stare that Mark Wahlberg has for like this, I think it's like 20 seconds long.
It has to be.
Of just solid, like on his face, him processing all these different emotions. Might have been one of my favorite parts of this movie.
Loved it. And I thought that was like, for him to knock that out of the park was, I mean, it's a great part of the film because you're wrapped up in the chaos too with all this shit going on. And you as an audience member are like, this doesn't feel right. This doesn't feel good. And then that happens. You're like, oh shit. And then he stands up. All right, we got to go. Thanks for having us over. We're going to take off. Mm-hmm. You know?
Yeah.
And then it just chaos ensues.
Fucking, yeah. After like the second half of this movie is just like chaos ensues.
Dude,
the movie.
Once it hits the 80s. Literally once it hits the 80s.
Once William H. Macy has that oneer where he's walking through the halls, sees his wife getting banged for I think the third time, which is like a running gag in this movie. William H. Macy plays a character called Little Bill, which you can only imagine how he got that nickname.
Right.
And the whole running joke of this movie is his wife just keeps getting fucked in front of like him or different people or whatever, and she just does not care. And he's like kind of sulking about it. And then the third time it happens, he catches them in the bedroom. You don't even see them. You just see his reaction.
Yep.
And then it's just a oneer of like him going through the hall, going to his car. And at this point, I knew what he was going to do. And he gets a gun from his glove box, walks back in. Nobody really notices until he like gets past everybody in the living room. But even then, they're still caught up in the
Nolan,
New Year's of it all, right?
one person might have said, "Hey, little Bill, where are you going?" Like
Right,
that might have been
exactly.
it, and then but everyone's wrapped up in the because they're doing the countdown. Like it's literally like they're like 5.
And as it's counting down, he goes in there, shoots the two of them, comes out, shoots himself in the head,
Such
sets
a cryptic smile.
sets the tone for the rest of the film.
Yes,
It is so eerily effective that way.
Yeah, and one of the funny parts I remember someone telling me is that Paul Thomas Anderson wrote this to be very serious. Like, so the tone, it's a beautiful blend of the tones too, of like these different elements going on, and just being able, like, very fluidly mixing in between, being dramatic, maybe like a little action or thriller with like the comedy aspects. But he wrote this thing intended to be very serious and maybe melodramatic. Maybe not melodramatic, but dramatic. And they said
Have some weight to it.
Up until that point, everyone was just having a good time with it,
Right, and like the I think it's necessary for the first half of this to just be like one long good time.
Yes.
So that when it does get into like the darker aspects of it, it just feels more effective.
Oh man.
If you were to only spend like 20 minutes of like, oh, Mark Wahlberg's having a good time making porn, and then like all of a sudden things turn dark, it's like, okay, but this doesn't feel like we've lived with these characters enough. It doesn't feel like this was earned. Whereas this movie and it's the form that we have it is, I think, the perfect pace.
Yeah.
I guess this was originally supposed to be 3 hours with an R rating or NC-17, but with a less runtime, I guess, or like a shorter runtime. And they told them like, okay, you can have it be 3 hours and have it be R rated, and that's fine. But then they ended up having it be like 2.5 hours anyway.
Yeah,
because this movie isn't 3 hours long.
No. They had to cut it down, and they got it. It's interesting because I heard there was two edits of this film, and Paul Thomas Anderson, because they really wanted to get it down to be more marketable, and apply to a wider audience. So PTA during, I don't know if they're doing like early releases or test audiences, but he would dress up and go in there and start talking about how shitty the movie was and like his version. But he wasn't him, he's like, it's John Doe. And I'm like, yeah, that sucked. Isn't that awful? That's a piece of shit movie. So it tested negatively amongst the viewers.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think he had to trim it up a little bit to get it down to an R rating, or else it would be NC-17. Like this thing, like they had to do a couple different things to get this thing to be R, because if it was NC-17, it wouldn't.
Because this movie's like, it's pretty close to the edge of being
Yeah.
NC-17.
Oh yeah. I don't know how he did it. I mean, like, if you think about it, like...
It's kind of baffling that, like, he managed to squeeze it
They
in
only
R.
had, like, a couple, maybe, like, one sex scene or two sex scenes, but they didn't really, like, show anything, It was all through, like, a different lens,
Right.
if you will.
Yeah. I mean, you see your fair amount of breasts in this movie.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the final reveal.
Yeah.
What this movie builds up to.
Yeah.
Is the reveal of Mark Wahlberg's hog at the end. His wild hog that he's got there.
Put that thing in a freaking terrarium.
Right, exactly. Which, I kind of wasn't expecting, but at the same time when it happened, I was like, this makes sense that this ends this way. Where, like, we finally get to see what his cock looks like.
There's like
because they're hyping it up the whole time.
It's like a Chekhov gun.
Chekhov's penis.
Yeah, that's what to say. They can't sit there and not show it to you. There was it's funny too because PTA, they were asking him like, what do you think the movie was about, or like, why'd you write it, this, that, and the other, and he's giving all these answers, and he eventually found that no one really cared. So he finally just goes, it's about a guy's big dick in the porn industry. Like,
I mean, he's not wrong.
Yeah,
because he made this based on a mockumentary short film called The Dirk Diggler Story.
Yeah, he loved the name.
He fucking loved the name Dirk Diggler. So did every character in this movie.
Yeah,
it's like, oh, that's a great name.
It is a good name.
It's not a bit. It sticks in your head. I will say that. But it's I guess it's based on a real guy named John Holmes.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you looked at this guy's page. I guess very similar to the character in the movie.
I've read
he had a 13-inch schlonger.
Yeah, I was on the IMDb trivia or whatever I was going through. They referenced John Holmes so much that they pulled aspects of his life and put it into this movie.
I think I saw like a side comparison, like a shot for shot
of
like films that he's been in, like adult films that he's been in, and then the ones that they make in this movie.
Yeah.
And they're very, they're like the same.
Yeah.
It's very clearly like, oh yeah, this is like based on this dude.
Source material.
Can I read you the different names that this John Curtis Holmes has had? So better known as John C. Holmes or Johnny Wad. Now that was his most prolific pornographic name, was Johnny Wad.
They reference it in the movie too.
Do they?
Yeah. He goes, we're gonna be respectful to him. We're not doing that shit that Johnny Wad's doing.
Yes.
Beating them up, and like, we respect women.
Which is fun because like they make the exact same shit.
They do it like in they it starts out with them being protectors, right? And then it gets to the point where now he's like, hey, shut up, and you're gonna give me that
shut
name.
up, bitch. Slaps her in the face. It's quite the head spinner. But I just want to read the different names that this guy has had throughout his life. John Duvall, John Estes, Big John Fallis, Big John Holmes, John C. Holmes, John Curtis Holmes, Johnny Holmes, Big John with 2 G's, Big John with 1 G, John Ray, Johnny Wad, John Sacre, Long John Wad, Johnny B. Wad, Johnny the Wad, John C. Wad, John E. Wad, the Duke of Wad. This is where it gets really fun. John Footlong, Wadzilla, King Wad, the Human Tripod, Wizard of Wad, the Sultan of Smut, the Reverse Birth, the Sheriff of Grottingham, and my favorite, Eve's Burden.
What's Eve's Burden?
I'm assuming it just means because his dick is so big that it's a burden for Eve to be with him, is what I'm assuming that means.
I like how you really lean into the Wad element of that.
Well, there's also the idea of like, the burden of Eve's sin, of like, because like she's the one who committed the first sin. So like obviously this guy his whole life is embroiled in the concept. The reverse birth is quite good too.
That one's good too. Did they say the Sheriff of Waddingham?
Yes. Well, the Sheriff of Grottingham is what it is.
Waddingham would have been, I think.
Waddingham would have been, I mean, half the fucking names are different versions of the word wad.
Probably 26 Johnny Wads in there with a different initial.
Wadzilla, that has its own Wikipedia page, so that's fun. The Duke of Wad. Yeah, these are all quality names, I will say. So very good stuff.
Who's your favorite performance in this thing?
My favorite performance, it's so hard to say because they're all really fucking good. Honestly, I don't know. Heather Graham just kind of surprised me. She really kind of stood out, especially in that scene when she's, stomping on that dude's head with the rollerblades.
It's like, there's a lot of murders in this thing and not a lot of police cars.
Well, it's weird because does the guy die? Because he's still moving when they leave.
No, I don't think he did. I mean, either way,
if he's not dead, he's got some fucking serious brain damage.
Technically assault with like a deadly weapon.
10 stomps on the head from a roller skate is
that's what
not gonna end well for you.
No.
I'm really surprised that I think there was no like police intervention, like Roller Girl has been arrested, just so you know.
Dude, it was very casual, just people dying, and it's like, yep, see you later.
Do you want to know her name according to Wikipedia? I don't think they ever say her real name in the movie. They just call her Roller Girl.
The guy says it in the car.
Yes, he does.
He calls her like Cheryl or Charisse or
it's Brandy.
Brandy, yeah. I don't know. I don't know if they gave a last name, but he goes.
I don't think so.
He definitely called her Brandy in the car.
Well, was that the same guy that she saw in the classroom that was like doing the gesture towards her?
So he does that, and I've seen this movie before, and I sometimes like small little details like that, elude you. Mm-hmm. And that guy does it. I was like, I wonder if that's the same guy. He's like, I'd rather not say what college I'm going to. Hardy har har har.
And then he does like a sentence later.
Well, just showing how stupid. Yeah.
Yeah. That scene was brutal. I guess that kind of surprised me. I really like Don Cheadle in this movie as Buck Swope.
Yeah.
That first scene when he's in the electronics store, he's trying to like smooth talk the guy into buying a surround sound system. It's just, I don't know. It's just very good. And then I like how he's able to
Western.
the hard Western. He's so like happy to be dressed as a cowboy, and then he's bummed when people tell him to not dress as a cowboy.
Switch your identity. No one's gonna recognize you for all that shit, man. I forgot what they call it, but it's so lame.
He's playing someone who is like so like empathetic, and also just like, yeah, this guy's a dude. Like I would like to hang out with this guy.
Yeah, I mean, he's for where they're at and what they're doing, he's probably the most grounded out of all of them.
He plays the scene in which he's at the donut shop really fucking well, like the tension of that.
Oh yeah.
Because the way that scene is framed when he goes in and like his wife is pregnant and he's like trying to get like a dozen donuts for them. He's all dressed nice in this suit. I can't help but just immediately have this tension in the back of my head of like, something bad's gonna happen. Something bad's gonna happen. Either like he's gonna die in here, or like someone's gonna come and rob the place and he's gonna get blamed for it because he's black, or like some bullshit is gonna happen.
Yes.
And then like weirdly enough, like, you know, the guy comes in with the gun, tries robbing the place, and then this what I can only describe as like the wildest Rube Goldberg of all time happens, where like the guy in the booth has a gun. Don Cheadle tries to tell him not to do it. The robber gets spooked. He shoots the guy. Guy in booth shoots the fucking clerk.
No, the guy in the booth. Well, yes.
It happens to where it's like a 3-way kill.
I mean, it's
where like 3 people die at the same time.
The
they all
kid
get
goes
shot
down.
in the head.
The kid's going down. He just starts firing out shots, and then everyone. It's insane.
It's very insane.
And he's like literally just sitting there.
He's standing there covered in blood. All 3 of them are dead. Shook. The bag of money is right there. It's like, oh God, do I take it? And then I thought where this movie was going with it was he takes the money, he runs out, and then the police come and get him. Like,
that's what I was kind of...
That's what I expected to happen.
Dude, first time I saw this thing was way back when, and it was on HBO, and that I just happened to turn it on to HBO during that scene. And it was one of the most like, whoa, this movie's, because I had heard about Boogie Nights, and I knew a little bit about what it was about. And like, so you get down to scrolling on there, see it on HBO, throw it on, and it's at that scene. And I'm like, what the fuck is this movie about? Because that's all simultaneous with Roller Girl and Mark Wahlberg.
Right, yeah.
You know, like it's
where
all
it like cuts in between the both of them.
It's it's like your freaking Requiem for a Dream, you know? And
very much, yeah.
Right? Like it's just all the simultaneous stuff happening. And I remember being like, yeah, I don't know if I'm ever going to go back to that one. Like, this isn't what I was expecting this to be.
That scene where Mark Wahlberg's getting assaulted by, like, the 5 dudes.
Oh.
It's so brutal. And, like, I think Paul Thomas Anderson has trained me to expect, like, even worse outcomes than what happens in the movie. Because I thought they were going to, fuck with his dick or something. For, like, for the sake of, like, narrative... I guess poeticism of like, oh, all this guy has is his cock, so that's what makes him special. So then if you take that away, then what's special about him?
Yeah,
I thought that it was going to go on like that really gnarly tear, and I'm glad it didn't. For
I think
my
it was
own
for
sake.
whatever. He was already kind of like, that's as low as you can get. He's back to
He's
back to being a busboy, but he can't even do that now.
And the fact that I think my mind went there is a testament to like how good the scene is of like building the tension of it.
Oh yeah, dude.
Of like, oh God, are these guys gonna like do like really bad shit to him?
The roller girl scene like 3 times, and even on this viewing, I'm like, oh God, does she kill him? Like this is it's so cringeworthy.
If she doesn't kill him, he's a fucking vegetable. Like you get your head stomped in the fucking concrete.
Yeah.
By a roller skate like 10 times in a row.
Pissed off roller girl.
Yeah, it's like that shit's not gonna end well for you.
No,
like,
but that's I mean in all it's the lowest points because even Jack's like in the car and he's got the fucking video camera rolling. He's like, well, we're doing it live. I hope you guys are all ready. How about my spectacle? Like, dude, he's got like this distinguished director.
This totally like blasé attitude about it. But then like when the guy says his films suck, he like gets all uppity and like starts attacking him.
Well, I mean, rightfully so though. Because all these people are like back. They're doing exactly what they don't want to do, and it's like they've hit their lowest points to just survive. Yeah. And they're trying to go through it with this attitude, and it just, of course, like as soon as that guy says it, like I was like, oh, that's not good for him. You know?
Can we talk about Philip Seymour Hoffman for a hot second?
Yeah.
Philly C.
Yeah, one of the stranger roles in the film. I
think he's very good. I think he's...
everyone's good in
He's
this
one of the
thing.
few characters that it never feels like he is that negatively affected by everything going on. The worst thing that happens to him is Mark Wahlberg rejects him.
Yeah.
Like, that's the worst thing, right?
No, that's not... there's a...
Because he's not there at the house with Alfred Molina. Like, he's not part of that deal.
Barely got out of it. Because he's in the background when they're hatching the plan. He's like, guys, this doesn't sound good. And they're like, shut the fuck up, Scotty.
Right, yeah.
No. I think it's more so of like... Philip Seymour Hoffman to play a role like that. And it's not, because he was a homosexual or anything. It was more so of just like he felt so like wimpy. And he's in all these other films that I've seen. Like I said, I'm going back to watching this thing with household names when they weren't household names. Mm-hmm. So it's a little jarring seeing him play in a role where it just, it's not how I know him. I know him being Dusty from Twister.
And it's not, like you said, we're not talking about him playing a gay person.
Right.
It's more just like him being the guy who's so...
He's meek. He's fragile. I mean,
he's meek. He's like totally oblivious to.
He's a little kid. He is essentially the baby of this family.
Right. It's like this is the character who comes in and you're just like, oh, god damn it. He doesn't see that this is what it is. And
yes,
that is one of the most fascinating parts about like him playing this character.
No, I'm not. And that's what I'm saying. He didn't do a bad job. It just to me with him being there, and if it was someone I didn't know, I'd probably appreciate it a lot more. But I don't know. You just watch him, and that's not who you think of. Like with his, I mean, you watch Only the Devil Knows You're Dead or Mission Impossible 3. I want to say like he plays like very confident, robust characters, or even in Twister's. Confidence and just like fun loving, and in this you're watching him and it's just, and the person itself is just being oblivious like that. You kind of feel like he just doesn't see where it's going. He's gonna be the last one in the line, but it makes sense thinking about it now. I mean, with if you're going off a dysfunctional family, like he's kind of the run of the litter, and he's just, but he did know about the drug deal, not being a great idea.
Right, exactly. He had enough insight to be like, guys, I don't think this is a good idea. Shut up, Scotty. Yeah. I'm fucking...
That's another thing, too, that I'm saying, though. I don't want to see
Thomas Jane.
All these guys are coked out of their minds talking about the most idiotic thing in the world. And Philip Seymour Hoffman is back there telling them, like, guys, not great. They're like, shut the fuck up. Mm-hmm. We got him. We're going to rob this fucker.
Right.
Like, man...
I like how Thomas Jane just kind of pops in about like halfway through this movie as Todd Parker.
Oh, he's awesome.
He's very good at playing like coked out fucking like just absolute devil may care mustache boy.
Dude, and let's say that they are all idiots. Let's just get it out there. There's no admiration around this. They are all stupid. It's just how God, you just see people do some dumb things.
I also like to how, and this is totally like not related to the movie at all, Thomas Jane kind of looks like the John Holmes, the porn star.
I wonder if he like auditioned for that role and
I wonder.
PTA was like, hey, I'll get you something else.
Well, it's funny because I know PTA had Leo in mind at one point, and Leo was busy making the Titanic.
Yeah.
And I think he's since said that, I wish I could have done both of those movies.
Oh, I'm sure.
Because obviously, like, Titanic, fucking didn't hurt his career by any means. It kind of made it in a way.
Well, some extent.
To some extent.
Yeah.
But, yeah, Leo was in mind. Fucking great movie. There was another scene I had in mind that I wanted to talk about, but
the scenes are, I think
the scenes are fucking good. Oh, the scene in which I think is one of my favorite Burt Reynolds scenes.
Yeah,
is when he goes and he sees his name is like the Colonel or something.
You just call him the Colonel, the fucking pedophile.
He goes and sees him in prison. He like learns that he's in prison, but he doesn't quite know the extent until the Colonel like admits to him. And the scene where the Colonel just like pleads with him, like, "You're still my friend, right? We're still friends, right, Jack? Are you my friend, Jack? Are you my friend?" It's just like you can see on Burt Reynolds' face, like he's just like hurt. He's betrayed. He's like he's going through like all these emotions, and then like the scene just kind of like ends so pathetically.
Yeah.
Of just like this guy pleading for, not to like even say he was innocent, just to say like, are you still my friend? And then like the last time we see him is like him sobbing in his cell.
Shut up, bitch.
Right, with like his cellmate who's like clearly not taken too kindly to him.
No.
quite the dour, but deserved fate.
Yes. It was not to say everyone got their comeuppance, but I mean that one felt good.
Yeah, well, because they said that he was with a 15-year-old girl, and they like he said I didn't do anything, but
that
they found
wasn't
pictures. Yeah, they found pictures in my house, and I can't help it. I can't help it, Jack. I've got a weakness, and it's like,
no, they were. I don't know. I'm glad they didn't tap into it, but they're so cute and cuddly is like one of the things I'll never forget.
That is so, yeah.
He
doesn't. It doesn't feel like he goes like gratuitous with it, which is good. Like,
no, I'm glad he didn't.
He gives like the right amount of like, oh my god, this guy's fucking like, get him out of my.
15-year-old is already bad enough, and then let him say they're a little younger. Like that's and that some retribution there when you see it at the end.
Yeah. It feels like this movie touches on a lot of different aspects of like the porn industry and how it affects you, and like just the sort of like negative impact it can have on people's lives, but also it doesn't really feel like this is preaching to you.
No.
This movie's it's not like a fucking PSA. This isn't like the dangers of pornography.
No, I think it's just capturing kind of like what that, like it said, it's capturing the golden age of porn and what it was like, because these people, it's probably the closest that they'll ever be to being actors.
Weirdly, this is more like a history movie than anything else. Kind of.
Say. You learned 6 years of porn and the rise and fall.
A history of like a very niche aspect of American culture.
Yeah. No, I loved, we'll probably run into it with but I love Burt Reynolds in this thing. I thought he's my favorite part of this thing.
He's so good. He gives this movie such a respectability that
there's some notoriety behind like what you're watching, because he's on the screen, but his figure, his presence also is, you can't, there's like a charm or a confidence around him with everything that he's doing.
There's like a naturability about him, and like it's almost, because one of the things that I wasn't necessarily worried about, but it did cross my mind of like, is this guy going to be too like out of his element when it comes to playing a character like this? Because you see like older generation actors in movies from like younger auteurs where like, okay, clearly like there was like a miscommunication, or like this older seasoned actor is like, he's not really caring about this. He's kind of out of his element. Yeah. Burt Reynolds just feels so natural in this movie. Yeah.
That's what, 100%.
And the scene that I think might be one of my favorites that has him and Mark Wahlberg is when Mark Wahlberg goes into the house and is just like apologizing to him. And you can just see like the left side of Burt Reynolds' like arm, and he's just standing there and he's not moving. Yeah. And like him just letting Mark Wahlberg like sit in the scene, and then to end it with like him silently going over and giving him a hug is just like chef's kiss. It's so perfect. It is so good.
It was really, I mean, he leaned to it, and it just felt right. Like he really, I did not see Burt Reynolds watching this thing.
No.
Like I did not, and I haven't seen much of his films.
My dad loves Smokey and the Bandit.
I was about to say, he got that, Deliverance, Gator. Anyways,
3 Men and a Baby, Magnum P. No, that was Tom Selleck.
Yeah,
fuck, I always get those two confused.
We're so close.
I'll cut that out.
But
no, I'll leave it in.
Yeah, he's fantastic, and I just and I love the ending scene. There's so many tracking shots in this thing, but like when he's walking through the house and he's having conversations, but he's getting his point across while listening, while continuing on. He doesn't have to stop and talk, and and then it's like, all right, we've good conversation on to the next. It's so like Western society, where it's like, all right, hey, clean your room, okay, sweep the dirt to the other side, and then now half the room's clean, and then you do it the other way, and meanwhile he's just walking. It's like, I don't. That's the only directive I've got. Do what else you want to do, And
I love his outfit in that scene too. He's got like the red shirt and pants. He's just like walking around. It's like looking like a hot tamale.
He's always smoking on his Black and Milds, and
Uh-huh.
oh my god, even was it Philip Baker Hall's in this thing for a hot second, and even
He
and
pops in.
he does a great job.
He's like,
hey Jack, I'm telling you where the industry's going, and this
Hey,
is where it's at. It's
people
on
want
film.
tapes.
Yeah,
They don't want
tape.
film anymore.
Yeah,
They want the amateur stuff.
and he's like, listen here, I'm not taking your shit, and I'm gonna still do it my way. And then he realizes,
Yeah, his way is gonna not lead to the profitability in the long term, unfortunately, for him and for everybody else.
yeah.
Was there anything else we wanted to say? I mean, there's so much I think we could say about Boogie
Well, the
Nights
last
that we
has got to
haven't
be
touched on.
just the whole. I'm sure you alluded to it earlier with Burt Reynolds and the
Mark Wahlberg and how they feel about this
yeah.
movie. So from what I could look up, and I don't know if you have more insight than
Off
me.
the top of my head.
I saw that Mark Wahlberg at least was confirmed to sort of denounce his involvement in this movie. This is sort of just what I found online, and I'll just read this verbatim. Despite the accolades Wahlberg received for his performance in Boogie Nights, he would later express regret for having made the film. Quote, I've made some poor choices in the past, he said, and stated he wanted God to forgive him for appearing in it. Wahlberg later clarified his comments, saying he had made them because he was sitting in front of a group of a couple thousand kids talking about and trying to encourage them to come back to their faith, and I was just saying that I just hope God has a sense of humor because I maybe made some decisions that may not be okay with him.
Yeah.
So Mark Wahlberg sort of becoming a little bit more of a man of faith later in his career, just expressing like, hey, I shouldn't have maybe done that movie where you see my dick and I am sucking on some titties.
Some extent. Yeah, that
to some extent, which is like, I
did
think
you hear about the prosthetic limb, if you will?
I know it was prosthetic. I didn't know if there was like a special thing about it.
Well, I don't know if I'd call it. You got a special thing in your pants there.
You're just ready to show the world.
That actually is one of my favorite. That got me like hooked right away. He's just leaning in the watching the busboy do dishes. And he hits him with that line. So nonchalant.
Yeah.
Imagine just being at Sam's Club and like some guy walked in and just started talking to you like that. You know how weird and creepy that would be? Yeah.
I bet you got a big cock. I'm like, sir, I just stocked the carrots. I don't know. I'm sorry. He's like, I want your carrot. I'm like, no, please.
The appendage was made out of like it was recycled rubber and some other material, right? Mm-hmm. Well, he took it after filming was done and put it, in like not a mantle, but like a shadow box or whatever,
Sure, like a glass jar.
He said it's since been deteriorating.
Oh no!
So it's a very funny.
It's a very funny representation of his feelings towards the movie.
Well, I'm just saying, you go into Mark Wahlberg's house and you're like looking at all the awards and all this shit. Maybe not awards, but all the set pieces that he's captured. And you see that thing, and it's crumbling.
I think Julianne
What's up with that
Moore,
giant dick up there?
I think Julianne Moore later said something of the effect of like, "Hey, maybe you should be grateful that this movie made your career."
Dude,
or something,
right? It's gonna fall into a theory with the other one, but there's an association there now with Mark Wahlberg and what's going on. Like, you know what I'm saying? In 1997, maybe not a household name. People aren't thinking about prosthetic appendages. You open up a whole nother market or markets of people that now know you and associate you with that. Mm-hmm. And you'd probably want to be on the one side of it versus the opposite side when it comes to an association.
My thought is like, just kind of don't really bash where you get your beginnings or like where you come from or like what makes you stand out. It's like, be proud of your prosthetic penis.
There's
and at a certain point he was.
Yeah,
clearly.
And I don't, from the little bit of reading I saw on it, it wasn't, he denounced it, but it was not, he necessarily didn't be like that was.
It wasn't as like serious as
it
it was like led to be or something.
It's more so of like like if like where I'm at now, talking to a younger version of myself, might say don't do that because he's probably a little embarrassed and you're trying to talk to kids about finding God and so I'm like, hey, you're Dirk Diggler, like that was eons ago.
He's like, hey, kid, how about you shut up?
Shut the fuck up, Scotty.
I'll send you to heaven myself. And then there was the thing with Burt Reynolds, which I don't think I know as much about that one as I did the Mark Wahlberg one.
So, yes, Burt Reynolds did not want to be in this thing. His agent,
I think he fought with PTA quite a bit, right?
They almost threw fists.
Yeah, they had like a very contentious on-set relationship.
It's crazy. So maybe not crazy, but he did not want to be on it. They had a very contentious relationship. He fired his agent after the agent agreed to do the film or had him agree to do it.
Right.
He won a Grammy.
It was his only Academy Award nomination.
Gave
ever.
it away, and he got it. The only thing he's held on to from this film, he's not like he never talked about it. Wasn't happy to be on it. Never took any credit. Didn't do any of the marketing agenda, scheduling, whatever it is to broadcast the film. And the only thing that he's really held on to since then was the Academy Award nomination slip that they hand out saying, hey, you've been nominated, whatever it is. Like he held on to that. But everything else, I said he cleared out. Anything that was attached to the film, he got rid of, which is so wild to me, which is how great he was.
I also read that he tried to knee Thomas Jane in the crotch after Thomas Jane pulled a prank on him after they had just got done filming a scene and the cameras were still rolling.
Parker,
I guess
he tried to hit Todd.
He tried to fucking he tried to juke him, tried to crotch shot him or whatever the fuck. Yeah, it was weird.
I'm gonna take his dick and slap you with it. We're not that show.
It read like he tried, like he missed. So you gotta wonder like what that would have been like, but. If you're Thomas Jane, you're thinking like Burt Reynolds almost like kneed me in the cock.
Dude, I mean his I don't want to say took off, but he's been in some stuff. I mean, imagine if you weren't. That's like the ultimate cocktail party story right there.
The ultimate cocktail party.
Oh.
I don't think I had anything else as far as talking about this movie. Nothing that I think we covered it pretty well. I don't know if we like need to go over any other specifics, but this is a movie we could talk about like for another hour.
Oh my
probably.
God, yes. Fun story, fun characters. I will say this is a well-made movie, and you know what? From the opening, they do a tracking shot, which is, in and of itself kind of difficult to do. You don't see those a whole lot in movies, at least for like 2.5 minutes or 3.5 minutes, whatever it was, right? Not only that, PTA introduces us to all the main players during that tracking shot at the club, which is just... It's fantastic. I mean, difficult enough, let alone like we're going to get all the character introductions. And then to be able to set up the characters, the writing's so well done with this that every character's got their own little story and they are characters. It's not like they're servicing the plot, they're servicing the story. Like each of these people you have feelings for, and like every time one of them does an action, it's going to have a consequence, whether good or bad, but like so impressively done for a movie like this. And I think like this is like, you talk about wanting to have an ensemble cast and have a large group of characters and something that isn't just set within a couple days. Like this spans time, This is like one of the foundational movies I think that you got to look at to see how well it's written and how do you actually tie it into what you want these characters to be to get it on the screen, right? So just wanted to say that because I did not pick up on that the first couple of times watching this thing, and then I'm watching it a couple nights ago and I'm like, fuck, this is so good. Yeah,
it is good. Shall we get into ratings? I think you're going first for this one.
Damn, why did I go?
Because I gave the plot description.
Okay. God, I teeter so bad.
Do you totter?
I like that Todd Parker.
Alfred Molina didn't like him. He fucking shot him.
Wow, he's trying to fuck. What's in the bedroom? I know what's in that fucking bedroom. Go on or give me the goddamn vault. Oh, damn it.
I don't know if I've seen you struggle this hard to give a rating to
It's
a
either
movie.
a 9 or a 10, and I'm gonna give it a 10. I'm gonna give it a 10, and I'm not gonna knock it for some of the things that take me out of it.
There you go.
I'm gonna go with the 10. Like I said,
right.
the writing of this thing, the story. I mean, this is it's just a fun movie, and it takes such a weird. I want to say industry, but I mean, if you put it in the lens of a dysfunctional family living in this like weird ass environment, it makes it a little bit more enjoyable. I mean, the plot's fantastic. We get the ups and the downs, and the only problem I have with it is there were points where I was getting checked out just with, I think, PTA. The cinematography in this thing's really good. I think there's one or two tracking shots that are just not needed.
Yeah.
And that it sucks you out a little bit because you're kind of getting attached to someone, and it's just you got to be living in the moment. And if you're not with the character that you want to be following at that time, you're stuck with them for 2-3 minutes, and it's like, I know not a lot's going to happen. So that's my qualms with it, but yeah, the 10 out of 10.
This is a very strong 9 out of 10.
Yeah.
From your boy.
Yeah.
Fucking PTA, man. I don't think
good.
there's I think the lowest PTA movie I have is Licorice Pizza. That's at a 7 out of 10 for me. And even then, it's a film I enjoy. Like, I still like it. I'd watch it again. But this is something that I think is maybe just like the text to every single movie that he's made after. Whether or not it's like Magnolia, where he's got like most of his players back, or like The Master, where it's only a few of them, but he like really hones in on like the character study of it all. He's just so good at getting these performances out of these great actors. I think that he really just is an example of a director with raw talent. I think even if he tried to make a bad film, I don't think it'd be possible for him to like make a level of like The Room or something where it's just like, this is incomprehensible. He's got that innate ability to make something at least good.
I think, he's you're going to be in good hands. It might be a very unique story that you're following, but it's going to be a story that you'll be engrossed with. And I think where his traits, at least from the movies that we just kind of talked about, really lies within writing really rich characters. Mm-hmm. And I think, and like most films, sometimes if the characters aren't good, you're going to fall out of flavor with it fast. And even some like the Nolan films, characters aren't great, but it's action. There's a lot going on. And with his stuff, it's not the mundane side of society that you're living in, but some of the rocks that you just don't really know what's going on under them.
Yeah.
And there's enough action that's happening that he can really capture, and it makes it fun without being gratuitous. So yeah.
Well, speaking of gratuitous,
fucking gratuitous.
There's a lot of gratuitous material in this movie that, I could say confidently rivals Boogie Nights as far as quality, as far as acting ability, as far as just like the tone it's going for and the themes that's touching on. Does it oh so well. I'm of course talking about Bucky Larson, Born to be a Star.
Yeah.
This was the film that I picked as sort of a punishment for you losing the bet about Kraven the Hunter's Rotten Tomatoes score.
God, it's so bad.
Just want to remind everybody that's why we're talking about this movie.
Has that gone up or down at all? Did people just stop watching?
Let me check. I can check right now.
Last time I think it was at 15, maybe 16%.
It's at 16%. Did not move a whole lot.
No, I think everyone saw it and was done with it.
Yep. Threw it to the wayside. Much like Nick Swardson was thrown into a pool in this movie.
Poor guy.
And you get to give a plot description.
Lovely. All right. Here we go. We got Happy Madison Productions, Bucky Larson, Born to be a Star. Directed by Tom Brady.
Not the NFL's Tom Brady. Not that one.
Got to make it clear. Adam Sandler wrote this with two other guys. What the hell decided to write?
Alan Covert, who I think is a normal sort of Happy Madison player, and then Nick Swardson himself.
So Alan's churching up the points and making sure that we're staying on script. Sandler and Swardson got the comedy chops.
Do they ever?
Yeah. starring Nick Swardson as the titular Bucky Larson, Don Johnson as Miles Deep.
Hell yeah.
That did give me
He's sort of the Burt Reynolds equivalent, right?
We'll
This
get into
movie.
it. Christina Ricci as Kathy McGee, Stephen Dorff as Dick Shadow, then I gotta give him his props.
You can't leave him out.
I'm
you
so
can't leave
happy
this dude
that
out.
you were so high on him because it made me turn a little bit on what I saw because I did not vibe with it, but very funny in retrospect. Kevin Nealon as Gary, the roommate.
Giving maybe one of the most audacious performances in a movie I've seen in a long time, right?
Yeah,
Rivaling Demi Moore in The Substance. Like, this guy
I gotta
is
see
just
the
insane.
Substance still.
You do need to see The Substance still.
That one is like one that I don't think I'm gonna watch with Jasmine.
Probably a good call.
Yeah, just from what I've heard like a couple different people talk about it. And we're talking about Bucky here.
Yeah. We're not talking about The Substance yet. If it gets nominated for Best Picture, you can guarantee we'll talk about that
We're
movie.
gonna have to. Yeah, I know. I'm trying to not. We're not going down that road.
Not yet. We'll save it for the end.
We got to the 17th.
Uh-huh.
So we have. Oh my God. We've got Bucky Larson. I'm pretty sure it starts out with Bucky at the grocery mart.
Yep.
Right in Iowa, somewhere Des Moines, Iowa, somewhere in Iowa, and he's. We get to see Bucky a little bit out of touch with society. A lot of it.
Can you describe how Bucky's appearance is?
Oh, I'm about to. So, whether you guys know about Nick Swardson or not, you could definitely tell it's him, but there is a great haircut that would rival most Amish barbers. A little bit of a bowl cut up top, but we got it's draped along the side. So we're down to shoulder tips, and he's got two very protruding front teeth.
It's like Timmy from the Fairly Odd Parents, just like jutting out there.
Yeah, very and done in a comedic sense, but more just taking away a lot of the focus of the character.
You don't
or you
say.
Can say that it is the character. I don't know.
Wait, Mac, are you saying that there's going to be scenes later that we're supposed to take seriously, but we just can't because of how he looks?
I don't know if anything in this thing's supposed to be taken seriously.
There's a few things they try, but continue.
I'll give you two.
I'm thinking of two.
Yeah. Okay. I'll give it. Yeah. And Bucky, lives a very simple lifestyle. He decides to get in a fight with his grocery store manager at the little grocery mart here in Iowa, and subsequent gets fired. And so he goes home, and he's really down in the dumps. But he gets to talk to his two Midwest parents about life and how you overcome tragedy and get good laughs in a good familial environment. Mm-hmm. And tells them, they're like, we're gonna play some Yahtzee after this, and he says, no, I'm going over to Dale's house to watch a movie because he's got the new whatever, and goes over to his buddy's place, which I did laugh at that when he gets on his bike.
It just goes next door.
They really poke fun at the Midwest in this, but there are some things that I was like, oh, okay, that's fine. And they put on they don't even put on. They describe what whacking it is. That they're gonna
They describe it for like 5 minutes straight.
They're gonna teach Bucky how to jerk off. They give all the midnight meat snack.
I wish fucking IMDb had a more updated quotes page for this movie. Oh, because I would be going over like every fucking thing they say.
Man, that whole very sophomoric, very what do you call that? Juvenile.
Here's what I'll do. If I can find the scene on YouTube, I'll just put in an audio clip of them saying all the names.
Oh, the dude it's like 40 seconds worth of, but it is humorous.
It's something.
There are some clever ones in there.
One of those movies you can play with your business to.
Don't you twang your wang?
Yeah, if that means washing my ween, then yeah, it's an everydayer. Up, down, all around. Do it again if I see some brown.
No, it means rubbing your skin flute after it gets stiff from seeing a pair of love balloons. Jeez, Bucky, I built my day around the whack. I get in a breakfast flapjack, a nooner, an after-lunch pre-nap slap, a post-work traffic jam slam, a pre-dinner spinner, an after-dinner dink, a dog walk leash pull, and then I round it out with a midnight snack whack if my folks are asleep.
Oh, sometimes I do it at the dinner table.
I'm not gonna lie, Bucky. I've been choking the bald man the whole time Lars was telling you his pad pulling schedule.
And
Yes.
you know, Bucky's never experienced that, never done it, so he's going to they're gonna try it out. They're gonna try it out. He's gonna figure out how to do it with his buddies down there in the basement.
dirty movie.
Yeah, the Farmer's Smell, I believe it was called, or something along those lines.
Yeah.
And sure enough, they put it on, and they're telling Bucky, you know, how to do it.
Get ready.
Yeah, and you know, it's preceded by Nick Swardson hamming away in every which direction. And
Which you can only describe as like him shaking a fucking soda bottle in order for it to explode.
It was, yeah. We'll get into it. Finds out it's his parents, and most people would probably be disturbed by this notion. Young Bucky decides that, you know what, they were stars. By golly, I'm gonna be a star too. So he hightails it to L.A. To become a porn star, with this very simple attitude and obliviousness to life, and sets out and becoming a porn star.
Spoilers for Bucky Larson, Born to be a Star. I want to talk about the conditions of which I watched this film to start off. Kind of, you know, give us a little bit of a pathway, lay the foundation. I actually went over to, shout out to my buddy Drew. I went over to his apartment, and we watched this movie together. He had seen it before.
Oh,
He had seen this movie
lucky
before.
him.
Lucky him that he gets to rewatch it, right?
Nice.
And he told me, ain't no fucking way I'm paying for this again. I'm going to try to find some other means. And he has this weird app that he has. I don't remember the name. And if I did remember, I wouldn't tell you.
Yeah.
But he's got this thing where, like, oh, we can maybe watch a download of it on TV. And we start watching, like, this. Looks like a cam rip of it. And it's going. And there's, like, not it's like montages of, like, the Midwestern Iowa sort of farmscape. It's not, like, not a whole lot of talking in the first, like, 20 seconds of the movie.
No.
And then it gets to the grocery scene, and they all start speaking Mandarin. And
I
I have the thought of, do we just watch the movie like this? Do we just watch the Mandarin version?
Wouldn't have missed out on it. Might have been at points confusing because there's a.
Would this movie be more enjoyable if I don't understand what the characters are saying?
Yeah. You know, I'm wondering, like, if you did that, that's a great test. If I was to put this in a foreign language, could you follow along? You know?
I think the characters in this are so exaggerative and they're like blatantly in your face that I think you could quickly pick up on, like, what's going on, right? But then you have scenes with, like, Kevin Nealon bursting in, and even in English, those scenes are incomprehensible. Which he has some of my favorite lines in this movie. But
all of the lines.
Every single thing he says is just absolutely golden. I wish IMDb had a better quotes page for this movie. But I thought to myself, do I watch it this way? And we were like, no, let's just actually rent it. And then we did, and we watched it. And let me tell you, watching this on my own, I would have been baffled. Watching this with a buddy, oh my goodness. It improves the experience.
Oh, yeah. This is a... God, you know, I hate to rip films. There's some production companies that I don't mind. Happy Madison being one of them. So that guy, Adam Sandler, knows that he produces shit sometimes just to get a buck.
He said, I think, that if he didn't get nominated for Uncut Gems, that he was going to make another one of his shitty Adam Sandler movies.
Make this one again.
He knows the type that he makes.
Oh, yeah. He's got a market, you know. And,
absolutely.
Yeah, this would be a fun one to sit down there and watch with a buddy and rip the fuck out of it as it's going along.
Or just, like, marvel at how absurd this thing is. At so many different points.
The whole point.
The whole point.
Yeah, the whole point.
Well, I will say, there was a stretch of time where, like, this movie is taking itself, not, like, seriously, but there's just, like, a little bit more downtime than I was used to previously. So I thought to myself, okay, this this thing is like kind of, it's not doesn't really have as much juice for me. And then it gets to this scene where he films his first scene as a porn star.
Yeah.
And he just like bursts like right there. He just comes.
Pops.
He just pops at the sight of breasts.
Yeah.
And it's like, not only did he do that, but Nick Swardson is just like going hog wild with this performance. This is like, I don't know what to make of this thing.
This is a you go to a party and you have like 6 beers and you're the clown of the party, and it's like, oh man, do that thing again, and you go blah, 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 you know, and it's like, oh, that's so funny, yeah, everyone like check this out,
yeah,
and it's like your party trick, you know. It's just, that was it, that was the whole thing. This was his party trick, and he was like, it's gonna be really funny, just think about it, if like people see this, and then it's just like, you go poof, it's over, I did it, and then I'll make some like gorilla noises in there, and like I'll like really, yeah.
And I think we can be fully transparent in saying that like there were points where we laughed at this movie, right?
Oh,
like,
you're hopping on, I'm going against, no, this is a points where yes, there are points when I laughed. There are points when I laughed where it made sense to laugh, and I would say the
majority, and I think I know where you're going. The majority of the humor I got from this was just from how absurd it was.
Oh,
right,
dude!
Like, I can't believe I'm watching this take place on screen.
No, I didn't. So I did not have that, because this isn't like I can't believe I'm watching this. They've said I know Adam Sandler makes shitty movies, and I don't like Nick Swardson, so I was not going into this thing. I didn't expect to laugh once, so I'm going to give it its prop that I laughed more than once.
I'm of the same sort of attitude.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I mean, like I was like, oh, all right, tip of the cap, because there are some ones that got me. Like overall, if they had 4 to 5 scenes where they make a joke and they let it linger so the audience can laugh, and then they pick up dialogue so you don't miss any dialogue going on. And like it's a trick of the trade with some of these movies that they're like, oh, we know that this is gonna be funny, we don't want to rush in more dialogue in case they miss it. Didn't laugh at once. Like, it just turned into awkward pauses.
No, it's like there's so many fucking scenes in this movie where like the joke just goes on way too long.
Yeah. And
the joke going on too long becomes the joke. And it's like, I don't find this is just weird.
That's what I'm yes.
This is just like the scene we were describing of like them having the nicknames for masturbation.
Yes.
When it's like the 4 of them in the guy's basement. It's like, this is a scene that's a primary example of like, this is going on way too long. Like, oh my fucking God, just get through this, please.
Dude, that's the issue I had with this thing, is like, they're like, oh, this is funny.
Because more likely than not, I'm not going to like a lot of the jokes in this movie. And then when most of the jokes that I don't like last way too long, and they keep making them, it's like, I'm not going to like this any better than I did a minute ago.
That's why I say we don't ever do comedies. Because this is why, like, if you don't laugh and it's like, oh, that's going to be a central theme in this, like, great, you know? But yes, this thing is so absurd that there are funny moments in this, and I will say that I don't think Nick Swardson mailed this in. I think he was trying. Like, he's like, I'm going to try to be Nick Swardson funny.
He's giving effort.
Oh God,
I will say.
Well, this is his. I'm really sure that he went up to Adam Sandler and was like, this is the movie I want to make.
Right. This is my like David Spade, Joe Dirt. This is my Rob Schneider hot chick. Like, give me something that I can do.
Sink my teeth into.
As like my vehicle.
Yeah, and I'll help you write this thing.
And this is the only Nick Swardson starring movie, right? Like, this is the only one where he's the lead.
I wanted to read if Happy Madison moved on from him after this.
I'm not sure. Is he in any other Adam Sandler stuff? I guess I can
look
check.
It up.
I can look it up. I'm right on the page.
I was very curious because I paused this thing 30 minutes into 40 minutes into it.
So he's in Jack and Jill, which came out the same year as this.
So that doesn't count.
That's My Boy. He's in a year after. Grown Ups 2, 2013.
So he's had a good run with them.
So 3 Adam Sandler movies in 2015. Pixels, Hotel Transylvania 2, and The Ridiculous Six.
Yeah.
He's in a movie called Hell and Back, but I guess that's a voice role. I don't think Adam Sandler's involved in that movie. is the Do-Over one.
Yes.
Yes, that's
Jennifer Aniston.
That's Sandler and Spade. I think I don't see Aniston on that list.
No, I'm thinking of probably whatever other shitty.
Just
Netflix.
Go With It.
Yeah,
I think that's what you're thinking
well,
of.
he did another one too, where he's like a secret agent, but he's not, and it's him and Aniston.
Are you thinking of Murder Mystery?
Could be it. Yeah.
Maybe. Sandy Wexler 2017, and then Leo 2023, and then he's gonna be in Happy Gilmore 2.
So I mean,
So Sandler's still using him.
yeah, they didn't cut ties.
No.
They didn't cut ties. I was thinking that they, after this thing came out, they might have cut ties, but
I think it was at the most like Sandler going like, "Hey man, maybe don't, maybe we don't do Nick Swardson movies anymore, man. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know, man.
probably. Yeah, that was definitely like, Nick, you're out. You can be in them. We're not writing or doing them again.
Right? You can be like fucking Jerry Fucknugget or whatever character I'm gonna have you play
dude, that's
in
what-
Grown
yeah.
Ups 3.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
You can replace Rob Schneider for all I care.
Kevin Nealon in this is
Kevin Nealon
fantastic, like in a bad way.
is my favorite part, and he is horrible. His acting is just so fucking
He
out there.
was-
He's giving way too much.
Yeah,
He's putting way too much fucking sauce on this, and I think
way
it kind
too
of,
much, but nothing at all.
but it helps the movie. I think.
No, without a doubt. I mean, without Kevin Nealon in this thing, I don't know. That took out half the laughs, and I'll even say
Yes.
retrospectively, some of the laughs were just us talking about it. Maybe like, oh my god, yeah, he was funnier than what I gave him credit to. But like in the moment, dude, he they go up there. I'm gonna show you this guy's house. He's like, my last fucking roommate. He does the John Mayer thing that's supposed to be funny, and I didn't laugh at that. And I'm just thinking like, poor Kevin Nealon. He read this script, was like, I don't want to do this, but Adam's a friend of mine. I'll be in his film. I will just give whatever I want to do. I don't, because you can like he's literally just reading off his lines. Like there's nothing behind it. But then he gets into pissed off roommate mode, and he's fantastic.
The scene in which Nick Swardson's eating cereal, and then he asks him where the cereal comes from.
He's ready to burst too.
And
he's
like,
so ready to fuck it. Like
he's like just looking for an excuse to just go off. And then he finally says like, buy your own fucking milk. Like he's just like, absolutely flies off the handle.
With when he's got so poor Bucky, he starts crying because he got made fun of at the party or rejected.
I think it's the scene after he gets pushed in the pool after he like pulls his pants down. And I mean, we can spend like a fucking half hour talking about the size of his cock. Yeah, but they make fun of it.
Maybe 20 seconds. I don't know if I'd go a half hour into that.
5 minutes. Give me a 5-minute cock corner, please.
I don't know if I'd be able to do that.
I can do it for you.
I'm sure you could.
Anyway, it's after that scene. He's like publicly humiliated.
Yeah.
And Bucky is just...
Which is weird, too, because he obviously... He doesn't care. He's so oblivious. And that's the point of the film at points is...
Right.
He's got no idea.
It's like, this doesn't make sense because, like, he's not embarrassed about his size.
Right.
But then he's embarrassed about people making fun of his size and being pushed in the pool. But then later on, he forgets about it. It's so inconsistent.
But when he's back there and he's crying in the bed.
Kevin Nealon comes up to him holding a bunch of grapes in his hand.
And just...
Not in a package, just like loose grapes. And he points to them yelling at Bucky saying, "Did you eat one of my grapes? Is that why you're crying, you son of a bitch?"
He's pointing up like he found the grape that he thinks maybe he's gone off the stem.
Singular grape taken off of the vine.
And I feel like it goes into slow motion. And he gets on top of him with his arm down there with the grapes in his face like a dog that peed on the rug. And is screaming at him while Bucky
is sobbing,
crying profusely about being publicly humiliated, and his roommate is just screaming.
His like fucking like 50-year-old roommate who's like in a dress shirt and tie
every time, everywhere they go.
He's got the same exact outfit every single scene he's in, and like that image of him holding the grapes is, I think, one of my favorite like stills from a movie I've ever seen. I'll post it on the video version of this podcast so you guys can see it.
Great meme. That is so memeable.
There's a video compilation of just Kevin Nealon's scenes in this movie.
4 minutes.
It's about like 5 minutes or so. Don't watch this movie. Just watch that video. Because it is like the most...
that's the pod.
It's the most value you'll get out of watching this film.
Truly. I mean, I don't know what else there... I mean, we're going to sit here and talk about some of the just problems with it, maybe. I don't know. This thing is like trash. But... So what's the redeemable qualities? I'm going to tell you right now, I like Don Johnson in this as Miles Deep. I don't think he mailed it in.
Don Johnson is giving way too good of a performance for a movie like this.
I'm wondering,
and
where
I don't
he
even
was
think
at
he's
with his career.
Well, here's the thing: I don't even think he's trying that hard, and he still manages to like give this movie some weird level of
he might
weight.
not be. I don't know, but I mean, he's acting. I
think I just like Don Johnson.
I was about to say, I don't know if I'm going to call it well, but like whatever it was, like he's trying, and I was like, every time that Miles Deep was coming on the screen, I was like, all right, I wonder what Don's got or Miles has got for us, you know?
Every time he showed up, I was like, thank God, someone to distract us from Bucky.
Oh my God, yes.
Someone to take us away from Nick Swardson for even for like a second, even though they share many scenes together.
Nick Swardson's in every goddamn. Oh no, not every. All but like one or two.
The most natural Don Johnson felt in this movie to me was the scene when he and his nephew are like first going over the footage they shot.
I was just about to say that's when I turned the corner,
and he's just like, "I'll give him that. He's not ashamed of it," and he like just stands up and walks away.
Fine. Oh my God, it was like a coach watching game footage.
He's like, I'm just seeing how the fucking video is, all right? Jesus.
We lost by 60. I got to find something in here that's salvageable.
Right. And it's like, you can feel the exasperation on his face.
Oh my God. And he's... Mother's a slut. Hey, that's your sister. Yeah, that's how I know.
That's how I know.
Give me the blue one.
Don Johnson is
and the black one.
He's so good at like weaponizing smarminess.
Yeah.
That is it just comes naturally to him.
Yeah. And it's and he's got a certain bravado around it, you know? I mean, it's like it just plays so well into I mean, at least the Don Johnson that I know.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't know if Miami Vice did that to him or what, but yeah, he was. I liked him. I mean, for the most part in this thing, every time that he was on screen, I was like, okay. Like, and it was literally like, okay, there's an actor.
Yeah,
you know, like we get an actor. Christina Ricci in this thing, I kind of felt bad for.
I was just gonna say I like her. I like her performance in that it feels like she is trying so hard to convince us that like she actually likes Bucky as a person.
Yeah.
And like it is believably forming a relationship with him. Yeah. She's doing so much fucking heavy lifting on that end. And like Nick Swardson is just they're in like two separate movies.
Oh yeah.
I don't know what the fuck happened to where like this relationship like is trying to make sense, but it doesn't. Like at no point did I actually believe that she was like into him, but she's doing so much to make her character feel like a real person, right? In a movie where like nobody except her and Don Johnson feel real.
Yes,
right?
Exactly.
Like everyone is so fucking extra. Everyone's so cartoonish. Even his parents are like Midwestern caricatures.
Oh, dude, this has got to offend a lot of the Midwest.
Oh, would not doubt it. Like just in the fact that this movie exists is offensive to Midwesterners.
I'm watching this. I was like, wow, they really just decided that they were going to pick on the Midwest lifestyle and just decide to offend everyone for no reason whatsoever. Mm-hmm. Like I couldn't. It wasn't, I'm not sitting there going, God damn it, I'm going to fuck it. But I'm just sitting there, I was like, man, just poking and prodding.
Nick Swardson's like, I don't have an accent. Why does everyone tell me I have an accent?
I actually laughed at that because I remember that, like...
Well, you have your Maxent, is what we've established.
I remember being in college, and we had some friends come from friends of friends, right? And they came from, I don't remember where, but we're talking, and I remember them telling us, like, we had cute accents. I'm like, what the fuck? Like... And that's when it dawned, like, oh, I guess everyone's got an accent, So unless you travel the world, But, like, I did laugh at that because I was like, oh, that's pretty Midwest that it's like, you only run into Midwest people, It's not like you go down south, a Southern accent. Yeah. You go to the East Coast, an East Coast accent. It's very distinguishable, So it did make me laugh because I was like, that conversation. I remember one person saying like, I don't have an accent, and just being so So, anyways, I did laugh at that, but yes,
There's like a certain relatability there.
he does poke a lot of fun at the Midwest and even the heavyset parents and just the lucky go, whatever you call it,
The happy-go-lucky naivete of their existence.
Yeah.
They are living in two separate films.
Yeah.
And the only time I never really bought Christina Ricci, like I bought her in most of this movie.
Yeah.
But the only time I didn't was when she's upset about spilling the soup, and like that's like a form of PTSD for her because she spilled like 10 bowls of hot soup on this old lady.
Someone, Sandler or Swardson, thought that'd be funny.
They really thought that would just like get a hearty chuckle from the audience.
We're going to lean so far into it that we're going to get her a gift for the awards of a fucking platter.
Right, with her name, it's like etched into the back of it or whatever. Yeah. It's so weird because it really does feel so transparent in that, like, all right, this girl is like way too nice. She's too pretty. She's too normal to be with someone like Bucky. Like, we got to give her some sort of weird abnormality in order to justify why she would be friends or like girlfriends with this guy, right? And it felt like the most they could land on was, oh, she's upset because she used to be a waitress and she spilled some soup.
I mean, I don't... So the relationship, like, no, not believable. But,
no.
Like, him being, he's very sweet to her. He's got a certain innocence around him. Like, this is where I'm going with it, because he's got a certain innocence around him. She sees him, and it's a very, I'm a waitress. There's, other, like, so people find people,
right.
Like, you could see some differences. So it's not like I'm going to go off just the looks alone and be like, he's such a caricature that she could never love him. But it was funny because by the end of it, when she leaves him in the hotel, I was like, oh, okay, there you go. Like,
right? To me, that made sense.
Yeah.
Because it's like...
That's what I was like, poor guy.
Because later you find out that, like, Don Johnson got drunk and told her that, like, they're going to shoot scenes with real girls, and then she gets upset about that.
Yeah, so I'm like, she dipped her toe as long as she could, and then realizing, like, oh, this isn't for me. And,
right.
But because she had, in that conversation... Don was talking to her about all that stuff, and she's like, you can find your partner with someone that's sweet or that you find attractive elsewhere. And I'm like, I mean, that it's very true.
Sure.
Like,
the main problem that I have, though, is that this movie never feels like it's treating their relationship with any sort of like weight or seriousness.
They were best friends. I mean, they were just friends, and she was servicing the plot. That was like
like the way that Nick Swardson was playing this character, it almost, and I'm not saying this to be mean, it almost just felt like she was taking care of someone who was mentally handicapped. To
some extent. I agree with you on that, because he's playing
really this character.
Don't play him up at all that he would ever be able to make a sound decision.
No.
Like, he could ever escape his parents.
Like, this guy, the way Nick Swardson's playing him, it feels like he needs a parental guardian around him at all times.
Like, he might catch something on fire, and not because he's a pyromaniac.
Right.
Just because he doesn't have any common sense whatsoever.
Or just because, like, the emotional instability, where, like, he gets way too, like, happy as he's, like, jizzing everywhere. He gets way too sad when he gets in bed. Like, it's just, like... The severity of the emotions of this guy.
I mean, those are natural. You're not...
Oh, you mean to say that him crying in bed and Kevin Nealon yelling at him about grapes is
I'm
natural?
Saying, like, after what happened, what Kevin Nealon did was not natural. That was what I would call emotional instability.
No.
Having a reaction after being publicly shamed and embarrassed and crying about it, I get. I think he has zero common sense. He's not a hustler at all.
There's no street smarts.
No,
this kid was like super sheltered his whole life to the point where it's like he's got like a crippling sense of like naivete.
Yeah,
like this guy is just gonna like
obviously
walk in the wrong room
and just get roped up into.
Right, exactly. Right,
like that's why it feels that it doesn't feel like he could have a girlfriend of any standard or means. You know what I'm saying? Like, it didn't have to be Christina. You insert a girl and say like they're gonna be a love interest. I don't think so, because she's taking care of a toddler.
Can we talk about just real quick? I'm not gonna spend a whole lot of time on it. The scene in which they use the straw. You know what? So obviously,
God.
this movie makes it a point to say Bucky Larson has a small penis.
Uh,
You could say like a micro penis.
yeah.
Like it's so small that people look at it and go like, "Is there a dick there?" Like it's
a running joke.
It's a running joke over and over again.
Yeah.
You could say it's like, offensive or crass or whatever the fuck.
Oh, you're gonna say that with this film? You're really gonna say that? Do you
I
think
know.
that
The
Sandler
audacity
and
of me.
Swardson were going for something else?
I'm just calling it like I see it. It's like pornography. I have to call it like I see it. But one point I want to make before I get to the next one is I feel like it would have maybe been better if we just didn't see anything at all. Like
the
scenes,
public shaming in the pool.
the public shaming in the pool, or like
Yeah.
whatever scene he like, because there's quick shots of like his whole thing, right? His whole body.
Maybe
Like very quickly, but like you still like can kind of get an idea of like what
like everyone else
what
kind
they
of get an idea.
and I'm making the like small like finger gesture right now, but I feel like it would have been better if like you just didn't see it at all,
oh yeah,
and like you leave it up to your imagination, and also
that straw scene would have been a lot more humorous.
right, exactly. It's
Yeah.
like, oh God, how small is this guy? But there's also this idea of like maybe you could subvert that later, maybe make it in the movie where like, oh, he's a grower, not a shower.
Oh,
So like it turns out when he gets
yeah.
hard, he's got like a fucking 10-inch meat log or some shit.
That
Like
I thought was where they were gonna go with this thing when they did because that the pool thing was like, whoa,
yeah,
out of left field, like
totally out of left field.
and all of a sudden it's like, oh, and then I was like, oh, that'd be kind of funny if like, okay, he gets his. No, they don't do that.
Right.
They play into it, and then
The straw scene.
that did make me laugh though.
So I wanna just talk about this real quick. Even like I'm not saying this as like a judgment of his size in the movie, right? Like
Okay,
I don't
yeah.
I don't give a shit. A straw of that material would just
No,
not be
it's-
fucking comfortable, right?
Yeah.
Or like functional.
So
I'd be afraid like you'd lose it inside of her.
I thought that they were gonna make that joke. Like I was expecting them to wake up the next day and like the straw, like what happened to the straw? And she's like, it slipped off. That would be. But yeah, no, it was funny because they like talk about protection, but there's one of the shows I watch, Archer.
Mm-hmm.
He gets he hooks up with these gals.
Piper
whatever,
likes Archer,
and they're talking about using protection. And then it's always the same joke, but they turn on the light and he's eating a candy bar.
Yeah.
And she goes, "What, you shit at a candy bar wrapper?" Yeah. So I always every time you think about materials that you'd use, and it's like obviously ludicrous, but
yeah.
I mean it drives home a point. And it was for a second humorous because I think they had like some like Whitney Houston or something on.
It was like some Barry White sort of music.
It
playing.
wasn't. It was very something
like
sensual that we're getting
some
into
sexy
the
tunes.
Yeah, and it was like dim the lights, candles on, and it was a very like Demi Moore and Swayze and what
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying when they do the
just
clay.
it's just kind of like erotically
it's-
coated, but then
yeah.
like she's got the straw and like how much more effective would it have been if like you just don't see anything, right?
Oh, without a doubt.
Yeah.
I mean, they play it up, and it's you can only be like, oh, I mean, where are we at? And then if that happens, like you have a really hearty chuckle.
Yeah.
But I also think it plays into Swardson, who's like, it'd be funny if everyone saw this, like with the pool.
So we were talking before we recorded about sort of our perception of Nick Swardson, kind of like a little bit of like what he was about and like why he was popular. But I know you mentioned that you were not a fan of his, never have been a fan of Nick Swardson's comedic style. Have you watched any of his like stand-up specials or like tried to get into his shows or what? Because he had a show on Comedy Central called it was like Nick Swardson's like fucking crazy time or whatever the fuck it was. Wikipedia will probably tell me.
Yeah.
Nick Swardson's pretend time. That's what it was called.
I might have, because the guy that does the voice of Archer and Bob's Burgers, he was in a show, and I don't know.
John Benjamin.
Yeah, I don't know if he was in that show with Swardson or
He might have been. He was like a big kind of like sketch comedy dude.
H. John Benjamin.
Yeah.
And then he got into doing the voiceover stuff or the voice acting.
Yeah.
Because he's got a very unique voice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he does. He stands out. Yeah, he was in that show. He had some like stand-up specials. Obviously,
H. John was in that show.
No, Nick Swardson.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just saying, like, all the stuff. Yeah, I guess he was like pretty prolific as like a writer for Reno 911. I guess that's where he kind of like got his start.
He kind of had some chops, and like and this is why I always say like I don't like doing comedy movies, is because comedies above all else move so much with the times. So you go into the 70s and you got kind of like your slapstick humor, and then you roll into the 80s and it turns into a little bit more about like robust fun with these outlandish, like unique, funny scenarios, right?
They're the type of movies that would age the most, I would say, out of like most other genres, right?
Like quickly, like you got like 5 years and then it's kind of
yeah. Like they serve as a time capsule.
Yes, and that's where. So I think Swardson he was on the tail end of it because like you had the 2000s and like sophomoric juvenile humor was coming back. Like Will Ferrell was kind of coming back. Some of the we're gonna really play it up with like the Age of Innocence with like in some really ludicrous scenarios dealing with like feces. I mean, whatever you want to say, right?
Yeah.
He was on the tail end of that. Or at least I was on the tail end of being like, that's no longer funny.
Yeah.
And that's why like the Happy Madison stuff, like unless you really had loyalty to that group, they just stayed in the 90s and kept playing it throughout. And it's just like, how many different ways can we tell a fart joke? You know? And it's like every movie, like think of a different one. How can we do a fart sound now? And I never got into him, and I just thought he was, like you said, crass, juvenile, sophomoric. Like he plays to a certain audience, and I would not into it. And
he's someone for me, and like I don't have like a huge sort of relationship with Nick Swardson, but he's someone who I could recognize. It's like, okay, this is someone who clearly is tapped into like a certain demographic, right?
Larry the Cable Guy,
or like just like. Yeah, very bro-y kind of like potty toilet humor.
Yeah.
Just like stuff that like, and he does, I've watched like a couple of his stand-up clips before you came over. He does have like stage presence. He has timing. He's got delivery. He's got like all the technical qualities of like a stand-up comedian.
He's got to, because he got a movie made.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and it hit theaters. Like, you don't just get that with luck or know-how. Like, you've got
exactly. Like, even if you are buddies with Adam Sandler, it's like there's still kind of something to prove there.
I'm putting $10 million on the line for this movie.
Exactly. And so, like, there is that innate ability of like, yeah, this guy is able to like draw in a crowd. Even like the clip I saw of him from like 5 months ago on stage, which, not to be mean, he is looking a little rough, but
dude, he's got I mean, in the deepest of sympathies, he's admitted to be like an alcoholic, or at least he makes a lot of jokes about how much he drinks.
Mm-hmm. And it doesn't help that he is still dressed like a frat dude with like the backwards cap and like the graphic
How's
tee.
Larry the Cable Guy dress?
I don't know, probably like my dad.
Does he still wear the Larry the Cable Guy from 20 years ago?
I can't say, admittedly, I haven't kept up with Larry's affairs. You know what I'm saying? Like, as of late,
those guys they're ponies, they're one trick ponies, and you got to keep playing. And like, you don't switch your character up because that's he's Nick Swardson now.
Mm-hmm. But there is this sort of like weird self-deprecation that he still has that I think was always sort of at like the core of his comedic style, which that was like the thing I could relate to the most, is like, okay, this guy has like at least a little bit of self-awareness. He's not like Carlos Mencia where he's like completely oblivious to like everything around him.
Right.
Like this guy has like a little bit of like introspectiveness, but there is this sort of like idea of like, oh, I'm friends with Sandler, I can do this movie if I want. I'm like, because this was probably at like the height of like his popularity, right?
That's why he got the movie
coming out.
Yeah, that's why I'm almost fairly certain that's why he got this thing made, was because his name was buzzing.
Because he was like getting up there in terms of like notable comedians, right? With like Louis C.K. and like Larry the Cable Guy and all this shit, right?
Yeah, well enough. I mean,
Like, you'd think comedian, you might think Nick Swardson at the time.
It's hard to sometimes for people to fathom, but I mean, even 10 years ago, like the information that you have now in 2011, what the iPhone just came out, like we're on the second generation of it. You now have information accessible. Like, so a lot of the stuff that you were doing in the 2000s leading into like when the iPhone came out, like you had to be social media. And I don't think social media was as big as a market as it is now with like how people attack it. Like it was still kind of up and coming. And if you're on the front wave of that, you were definitely hammering it. But that's how I knew about him.
Yeah.
Like I didn't watch any of his stuff, but I definitely knew about him from Comedy Central through social media and some of the attachment that he'd been in some other shitty films, or at least was like, I want to say he was in some shitty. He had to do something for me not to like him. Either that or this movie came out and I had it lukewarm on him. I was like, no.
I'm reading right now. I guess he had a big presence on MySpace.
There you go.
And then he would often talk about like his projects, like Nick Swardson Pretend Time or whatever, and they'd get like a lot of engagement on Facebook. So
Yes.
yeah, you're right. There is like that heavy push of like this wave of social media that's like first becoming marketable,
now,
right?
Because now you got, that's what, because now you got Instagram, Twitter, you have all these different platforms, and then you
it's
got
so,
the
like,
reels.
It's easy to be buried now and like all this shit,
Right.
right?
And that's where it's back then, like if someone heard about you, you definitely knew that they were putting in the work, because it's not easily accessible as it is right now. Now you can find really independent niche characters, personalities, whoever you want to find.
People can make entire careers out of just posting reels on Instagram.
Yes.
Like it's insane.
Yeah, and that's where we're at now. So like and that's what I'm saying. Like I had to have known about him, and he had to have a big presence, because at that time, like it wasn't just names floating around. And you might hear people that say, "Hey, watch Comedy Central. Nick Swardson's Pretend Time's pretty funny," and like stuff like that, like word of mouth. You know, you couldn't just go out and like do self discovery. Nothing was streaming. You still had to have cable, or someone had to download it illegally and watch it on a laptop.
You're like flipping through channels. You're getting stuff advertised to you. You're going off of like actual promos for stuff on like Comedy Central and like FX and all this other shit. Where it's like, wow, okay, I kind of have to like dig for this stuff.
Yeah, like it was. Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Like he was of notoriety because I knew about Louis C.K. and some of the other comedians of the time, and it was from that. But like I really think back then, and even more so. I mean, you go from the '90s to the 2000s, but back then, like you had to be of a name for people to be talking about you.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if he was in stuff, but he had enough of a name that I knew about him back then, because he was in like 30 Minutes or Less. He was in a couple different things. I was like, dude, I just don't like that guy.
Can we talk about the Kevin Nealon scene? Let's just talk about the end of this movie, how it just wraps up, because it's so like absurdly abrupt. Right?
Yes. They didn't know how to end this thing.
So we cut to after Nick Swardson gets back together with Christina Ricci. They like make up. So it cuts to like him now like either hosting for a restaurant she works in or being the owner of the restaurant.
No, I think he's the owner. She's a waitress, and it's.
Which, did he ever express any interest in owning a restaurant throughout the movie at all?
So
I know she had the waitress thing.
No, I know. What I'm saying is, this is like the denouement, like the little kind of last little bit of the thing. The climax of it, or the ending story, essentially, or the like when you get to your point, they have a conversation. Christina Ricci pretty much tells Bucky, like, I've always loved you. I love you for whoever you are. I don't really care about the size of your dick. Like, I love you for you, And he gets in and he says,
she's our understandable queen.
Yes. And God bless her soul. And he gets into, I was doing this. I won all these awards, but it's really like, you've shown me that I don't need to be a famous or a star. The star is you. You're the star of my show, or whatever it is. Like, I love you. And at that point, you kind of realize, oh, okay, like they've got what they wanted, and he doesn't need to pursue this career anymore because he wanted to just be famous, and now he's found love, and he doesn't need the fame and fortune. But I'm assuming that he got some money from winning all those awards and being in the movies.
Sure, yeah,
which they never say.
They never say.
So when they go back, it's a little confusing. You can only speculate. So this is me speculating because they never say like, with all that money, Bucky opened up he could have just went back and took out a loan.
Mm-hmm.
But either way, here we are. He's running the store and she's a waitress, and I fairly certain he owns it. But yeah, once again, it's a little loose.
And there's a long line waiting to get in, and from the back of the line coming charging forward is Kevin Nealon in that blue dress shirt with the shitty tie and his mustache all sweaty, yelling at Nick Swardson, going, "You owe me rent money, fucker! You're just like John Mayer. Just like John Mayer."
Yeah.
And then Nick Swardson turns to camera, it freeze frames, and then it plays, "Hey, I'll be gone today, but I'll be back. I'm
really?
around
That's
the
how
way. It seems like everywhere I go, the more I see, the less I know." And I'm like, this is how this fucking thing ends?
It was so bizarre.
Holy shit. This is
so bizarre.
This is a fever dream.
Oh my, yeah.
It's so weird.
I didn't realize they did a freeze frame on his face.
They do it for like a second.
Yeah,
it's
I was
like
making
a little.
lunch.
It's like a little bit too short for it to freeze on his face.
Maybe, yeah. All I know, I in my head, I take out the John Mayer joke because they kept wanting to make John Mayer jokes.
I know, that's like the least funny part about that. I just
Oh,
like him.
it is. That's the least funny part.
I just like him charging in, going, "You owe me rent money." He doesn't even say motherfucker. He just says, "You owe me rent money, fucker."
Oh, that's what he said. Okay, I thought he did say the MFer.
No,
yeah.
no, he just skips it all together. It's a great creative choice on Kevin Nealon's part.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And I also love that Bucky squeals. Like I only assume that he owns it, or
screams
he's
like a girl.
Yeah, making money, and he's still like, ah. Oh, it was terrible.
And like him shrieking while he's ejaculating is just
all of it is. A lot of it's tasteless. A lot of it is like,
oh really?
I don't know who found this funny, and like,
well, I could tell you it was Adam Sandler, Alan Covert, and Nick Swardson.
Even Sandler, I'm wondering, like, is he laughing, or is he just like, all right, Nick, you're my boy, you're gonna make us some money?
Well, I'm guessing what happened was Nick Swardson came up to him and was like, "Hey, Adam, I got some jokes that I want to run by you, really get your idea." And Sandler was like, "Hey, yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah.
Yelling about the grapes, that's pretty good, Nick. You got it all figured out, my boy."
He had Bucky Larson's character written down in his head and had it, and he was ready. He had the character down. He just said, "I got a character, and we'll funnel in all these jokes around it." This guy's so oblivious, no common sense.
Is there a world in which Adam Sandler played Bucky Larson?
No, I'm very curious that Adam Sandler wasn't in this. Like,
I feel like there's a few Happy Madison projects he's not in.
No, right. And maybe he does it out of loyalty, because I'm thinking now, because like the Rob Schneider, like the hot chick, the animal, you got Joe Dirt.
If you were to ask him, his answer would probably be, "Well, I don't want to distract from the main focus of like David Spade or Rob Schneider or whoever," right?
I could actually see that, because I think he's got his crew, and I think he looks out for him.
He's loyal. Yeah. He's a loyal guy.
Yeah, he's like, if you made it into my circle. So I get that now, because I was like, is this thing so bad? Sandler's like, and then I thought like, well, he should have hopped in it to help this thing out.
That's the first thing that crosses your mind, right?
Yeah.
But then you have to kind of like, okay, well, Sandler's like obviously bigger than Nick Swardson, so
yeah,
it would just be like, the only time that I can think of that Sandler's been kind of like not like the secondary character, but like the co-lead was in that That's My Boy movie, right? The Andy Samberg movie.
Never saw it.
Where like, Adam Sandler when he was 13 banged his teacher, and then they had Andy Samberg, and Andy Samberg doesn't want anything to do with him.
I never saw it.
Yeah, well, we'll just leave it at that.
The Happy Madison stuff, I like Happy Gilmore. I like Billy Madison, like The Waterboy. Like, he's got probably like 4 or 5 movies that just from nostalgia alone tickle me. Mm-hmm. But I got off that bandwagon quick, because I was like, these jokes I just don't get. And it's always been kind of Adam Sandler's thing, as being very juvenile. I really like that word describing him, but that's how it's his sense of humor. And it's like,
yeah. And I don't want to say juvenile is like a place of judgment, because like obviously people like these types of movies. There's like an audience there.
That's why I don't talk about comedies.
Sure. But
not to say I'm gonna place judgment, but like not my cup of tea.
I think there is a space for juvenile humor to exist where it works, and I feel like in this movie it largely does not work.
Well, you know, when you use that type of sense of humor, it's better off with like you were talking, like don't show him up on the pool with his pants down. Do the straw. That's a funny joke.
Right.
That everyone, it's like, oh man, like whoa, and then it makes you laugh. When you pepper it throughout a whole film, you really got to be in the dick and fart jokes and like seeing bubbles when you fart in the bathtub. You know what I'm saying? Like it's got to humor you, and if it doesn't, everything just falls flat.
And the problem with it is that it can be used so cheaply that it wears out its lifespan. Quite quickly.
There's no wittiness about it. There's nothing. I mean, you know. Yeah, there's. I don't think there's anything clever or witty or anything that really tickles me about it. Every once, I mean, but like we've talked about, every once in a while, some jokes in here do land and make you laugh out loud for a second,
or they catch you off guard.
Yeah.
They push you off a roof and into a pool while your pants are down.
By Dick Shadow.
Yeah, by Dick Shadow.
Oh God, this I thought I was gonna like this thing at a 0, but there are a couple things in here. Him and Miles D really made me laugh with their names.
Yeah, names are pretty dang good. Was there anything else we wanted? We're kind of like going over, and I have a game of reviewing reviews that I want to play.
Oh, we can stop. This thing is I could sit here and bitch about this thing and chuckle about it. I mean, it's whatever.
So let's get into ratings, and then we can play the game, and then we'll wrap up.
Okay.
This is going to be a meaty episode, you guys. I hope you enjoy it. Make up for the lack of the main feed last time. This is a 1 out of 10.
Oh,
unsurprisingly, shocker. I know, right?
Yeah.
A 1 inch out of 10, huh? Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Might be a little generous with the straw and everything. No, this is. Even though I got enjoyment from this movie, even if there are qualities about it that I can recognize are decent, like Don Johnson and Christina Ricci standing out from this movie, this is one where I would be hard pressed to be forced to watch this again, right? Like, it's one where I can't help but think of the time lost spent watching this movie, and whether or not the idea of watching it in Mandarin, a language I don't understand, admittedly, would have been the more valuable use of my time. So 1 out of 10. Nick Swardson is a nuclear bomb that I'm trying to run away from while watching this.
Yes. No, this only solidified my dislike for him. I'm not going to sit here and rant on the guy. I mean, he's found a mark and he's doing what he's doing. He's got to have chops for him to have a name, you know?
Yes.
It's not my cup of tea. So, not to bastardize the name or anything like that. This thing is 90 minutes long, and it felt to me like it was 30 minutes too long. Mm-hmm. Never really got going. Never went anywhere. There's some chuckles. I think the Kevin Nealon performance may be one I don't forget. Mm-hmm. I'm not, my 1 out of 10s are for movies that I really just dislike and think are shitty, or haven't seen and will never see, and just give 1 out of 10 to remind myself don't watch it. This is a 3 out of 10 for me.
Fair. It's very fair.
Yeah, I think there's enough merits in here for me to say this is a 3 out of 10 between a couple laughs, Miles D, Dick Shadow, and Kevin Nealon. Like, that's probably gonna be like the couple things I remember, and even probably the Miles. I might forget Don Johnson's in this thing in like a month.
Kevin Nealon should have been nominated for an Oscar for this movie.
Fucking. Did you hear my grape? There's a grape missing. Where's my great motherfucker?
Did you eat one of my grapes?
Son of a bitch.
You son of a bitch. Is that why you're crying?
Dude, he gets out. So he's already yelled at him like 3 different times, right? And then he gets out with the cereal. Well, whose cereal's that? Ready to implode or explode. Ready to go off. I bought that.
Itching for a reason to fly off the handle.
And then he does it. And that's what I like though, because then he's like, oh. And then he goes, is that my milk? And then it's gonna hit. And it's just, that's the stuff I like.
He's just like looking for a fucking reason
was
to lose
waiting for one.
Absolutely.
And it's milk.
That's like entrapment, but for him as a roommate.
And he just has to do it just to get it off his chest.
It's one of the most audacious performances I think ever put to screen.
God, and that
I
is
can confidently say
such a great picture. Poor Bucky crying there.
Oh yeah, this meme that I sent you.
Yes, I love it.
I'll show it on the video version.
Oh, I love it. It's so funny. His and then I'm not gonna lie, I really got pissed off. But this movie ended, and I laughed when you owe me money, fucker. Oh,
You owe me rent money, fucker.
yes. He's literally casting people aside, grabbing them by the heads and tossing them so he can get his $800 that Bucky didn't pay him.
Right.
Like storming the beaches to get his money back. He's so pissed off that he spent more money going to Iowa.
He probably
to
walked
get that
there.
rent money.
He probably let's be real. He ran to Iowa from LA.
And I said, I thought he mailed it in. I don't know. I might be changing my tune on it. I think that he encapsulated exactly what he wanted to go for.
It's Schrodinger's performance. We won't know unless we lift it up and see inside. Speaking of seeing inside, we get to see inside what the results of this game is going to be. And this game is reviewing reviews.
You think that I'm not gonna be able to tell the difference?
We'll see. These are user reviews that I have accumulated from Letterboxd. And if you don't know this game, it's where we take both the films that we've talked about in this episode, and I read a review from one of these films, and Mac has to guess which film the review pertains to. So I've picked 7 reviews. We've got an odd number, so there's a guarantee of whether or not you're going to fall one way or another. I did 6 last time, but I've learned from previous times.
Yeah.
And we'll just start. This one is from Jeremy Milks. I'm going to read off the rating, the score rating, if there is one. Sometimes there isn't, but
yeah,
in this case there is. From Jeremy Milks, 4 stars with a heart. This one reads, "We were drinking beers through this and ended up in tears. We were laughing so hard. Don't watch this sober or you'll sustain permanent brain damage. Movie snobs will hate it, but that's kind of why it's so great."
So you could watch probably both those things drinking beer. And
Probably.
you could think that the movie snobs are going to hate both of them because, I know everyone should hate one of them. I'm going to go with Bucky Larson.
You are correct.
Yes.
That one was for Bucky Larson, Born to be a Star.
This might be
Ring's
challenging.
telling me there's a person at my front door.
Uh-oh.
It's just a person walking their dog.
Oh.
They picked them up on the sidewalk.
There you go. There's
I'm not being broken into right now.
Yes.
If there is, I got a young strapping man willing to help me.
Yes, and a soundboard.
That's right. No, not the soundboard. If anything, there's a baseball bat right in the corner.
No, we got to take the soundboard.
Brother.
I'm like pulling everything out of it.
You're like, I insist.
Yeah. No, take the bat.
Kyle, this is the only way. The burglar's like standing in the doorway.
Just
like,
watching us.
He's just scratching his
fumbling.
head.
Do I have to turn it off first? It doesn't matter. It's going to get broke, but don't use it anyways.
Yeah. This is the only one we have. Gideon, let me have this. He's going to be pissed if it's broken. This next one is from GJ Schroeder 02. It is a 5-star with a heart. And this review reads, "This is the most significant piece of art next to the Bible and the Mona Lisa."
I'm going with Bucky Larson again for irony.
Bucky Larson, Born to be a Star. That's correct.
Yeah.
You're 2 for 2 so far. Let's see if we can keep it up. This review is from Hungcat. It's a 4 stars with a heart. This reads, "The best thing is when you show this to your group of friends and you get to see their pure, unadulterated reactions to one of the most iconic final shots in cinematic history." This one,
Is that a red herring? Or is this guy being ironic?
you tell me.
I'm going Boogie Nights.
You are correct. It is Boogie Nights. Damn, 3 for 3.
Well, that one is like some of them. Like it's got to teeter a little bit more on. But that wait, so you're saying 5 stars with a heart?
4 stars with a heart. So
The
this
hell
is
does that mean? Oh, 4 stars, 4 out of 5.
Yes.
Okay, what's the heart do?
The heart just means they like the movie.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So like it's just an extra like, oh, I really appreciate this film.
Could you get 4 stars on the not heart?
Yeah.
Oh.
I do. I don't really give hearts to anything when I log things on Letterboxd. Because I didn't when I started, and I feel like if I started doing it now, it'd just be like inconsistent.
Yeah.
So this review is unironic, actual appreciation. This next one is from Aleph Beth Null, 1 star. I haven't existed for the past 2 hours, especially not for the past hour and a half. I don't feel comfortable writing any critical analysis on this film, and I don't think I could ever feel good about reading any. So instead, I'm going to say that a chosen family has the same potential for horror as an unchosen family does, especially when that family chooses you.
Boogie Nights.
You are correct.
Just from the family reference.
This is about Boogie Nights.
Yeah.
Quite the review. Raised eyebrow.
About horror? They must not have really liked the third act.
From how this review reads, it doesn't sound like this was this person's type of movie at all.
It's a good summation.
Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah.
Really in-depth reading of this 1-star review, I thought.
1 star for Boogie Nights?
Yep.
I'm getting so prepped that I'm kind of like I wanted to hear the stars, and now also I realized that it went 4, 5, and 4 for Bucky Larson. God, people just love their irony.
Hey, one of those 4 stars was for Boogie Nights.
Was it?
Yeah.
I know. That's what I'm saying. That's the first bad one I've heard. It's been like 4, 5, 4,
I know.
4.
It sure is something to behold, isn't it?
Man.
This next one is from GH. 5 stars with a heart. How does a movie about the porn industry inject itself with so much goddamn heart? So many feels, even on a second watch, this still slaps the same way it did the first time. Yeah, that's all because there's more to this review, but it would give the movie away.
Yeah. I gotta go Boogie Nights.
You are correct. It is Boogie Nights. I'll read the rest of the review just for posterity. Love when a film can do that. Alfred Molina's single scene supremacy. The contrast and vibes from the 70s to 80s is miraculous. I think this just moved into my number 1 spot amongst PTA's filmography. The excitement level for Licorice Pizza is beaming. So this review is made before Licorice Pizza came out.
Right.
Next one. You're 5 for 5.
They
so
gotta
far.
be. Now that I'm like listening. There's too many details in the reviews that are giving it away.
I know. I tried to pick ones that were like a little bit ambiguous, but sometimes it's harder than others.
Yes.
This next one is from Cusack. Joan or John? Secret Letterboxd account?
Question mark?
This is a 1.5 stars out of 5 stars. So it'd be like a 3 out of 10.
Mm-hmm.
Terrible, but not terrible. Crass, loud, and stupid for sure, but also has a decent cast of characters and is occasionally funny. It's not the worst thing in the world. It's juvenile humor at its finest. Number of watches, 2+.
Man, that's a tricky one.
Mm-hmm. Hi, Piper.
But I'm gonna go with Boogie Nights.
It is Bucky Larson.
Oh,
Born to be a Star.
God damn it!
Incorrect.
Fuck.
It's the first one you got wrong.
Yeah, and I thought there was a red herring
Damn.
in there with we said juvenile so many times.
Oh, I thought for sure you were gonna like round it out. I thought you were gonna like sweep the whole thing.
Oh,
Damn.
Dang it.
Well, that's okay. Even if you get this next one wrong, you'll still have more right than incorrect.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm 5's already.
Yeah,
I cleared it.
You're looking good.
Yeah.
You're looking very good. Very handsome.
I wanted to
very demure.
Now, see, that's what demure.
I think it just means elegant.
Oh, okay.
Like sophisticated.
Yeah.
Very demure.
Wise.
Very wise.
Yeah. All right. What do we got for?
So this last one.
Yes.
It's from Kevin Allen Smith. It is a 5 star with a heart. Still thinking about this 25 days on and will forever. Flawless. Impeccably good-hearted. The key to this is that it's set in a world without sexual trauma, which is a nice, nay gentle place to be. Gentlecore.
Yikes. Gentlecore. I'm going Bucky.
Bucky Larson, Born to be a Star.
Yes.
5 star with a heart review. Congratulations.
You know, see, this is people. This is their unfound findings. What the hell's that movie that you like?
Fateful Findings?
Yeah, this is it. That's
I love
it.
how every time you reference it, you can never remember the exact title.
Exactly.
But I can always recognize it when you say, what the hell is that movie you like?
Such an old man.
Because you get so passionate and kind of angry about it. Like there's like a little bit of a tinge of upset in your voice.
Some of the
it's like, how dare you?
Yeah, but people are like 5 stars. I love this thing. Like,
it's great.
For all the wrong reasons.
You know, we each have a special place in our heart for just, you know, those films that maybe
Congo.
not everybody understands. Congo being for you, Fateful Findings being for me.
Oh my
But you
God.
know what?
It's so true.
We keep on trucking.
It's so true. Speed 2's I think an 8 out of 10, a 9 out of 10.
Yeah, you I think I nearly shat my pants when you said that.
You were
score.
so
I think I almost had a Kevin Nealon reaction when you said that.
Yeah, but you know, I don't find it I don't find it bad or like it for the wrong reasons. Maybe that's what's even worse.
You know, it makes it admirable, I will say.
Thank you.
And congrats on winning this game.
Yeah.
You got 6 out of the 7. That's awesome. Congratulations. Maybe next
Feels
time
great.
we'll go for the 7 all around. But
Yeah, so close too. Talked myself out of it.
well, you get to talk yourself into recommending a movie because it's your turn. After a month-long wait, it's your turn to recommend a film.
I know.
Also, I just want to say this before you pick your film.
Okay.
There's going to be the Oscar nominations coming out this week as of this recording. When this episode releases, we'll already know what the nominations are. But you'll get an idea of the films we'll talk about for our upcoming Oscars episode.
Are we doing that before the Oscars come out?
We usually do it after.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. Because I go over to your place, bring a pizza, and then
Yeah.
we talk about the ceremony as it's going on, find out who won.
Yeah.
And then usually like either the next day or two, we come in here and we spiel about it for about 3 hours.
Sounds about right. And
That's
then
how
10
long the last
films.
episode was.
You
Yeah.
gotta do fucking.
Which is fun. I love doing it. Like,
well, it only makes sense. I mean,
yes.
15 minutes in a movie, which is like really trimmed down.
Yeah. An abridged version of like normal discussion, but with 10 plus movies, some of which we might have seen and talked about. But
We should look at the schedule.
yeah.
Because I'm wondering if we should do the talk about the movies before the Oscars. I know we do.
We could try to do that.
Depends, because I bet you probably seen more than I have. I think I might be at 3 out of the 10, and that depends on what gets nominated.
It depends on what gets nominated. We'll see. March 2nd is when
March 2nd
is when the Oscar
Let's
ceremony
see how the
is.
Tuesdays fall.
So that's on a
and
Sunday.
they gotta come out with these movies as streaming, because some of these
Yeah.
movies are leaving theaters and they're not streaming.
Right, like the fucking Brutalist.
Yes.
Which that's guaranteed to get a Best Picture nomination.
Yeah.
At this point.
I mean, right now I'm hoping like Conclave does, because that's on Peacock.
Right.
You know, like it's
Conclave might. There's a chance it might.
there's a chance for all of these. I don't know if it's a strong year, or if it's just there's a lot of really like good movies, not great movies.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I think I agree with that. So if this episode comes out on the 19th, the episode after that will come out on the 2nd of February, 16th of February, and then
The 2nd of March.
the 2nd of March. So
We might be able to do it. It'd have to be like it's the last week of February.
we might be able to do it. We can always push it to the 16th and then talk about it after the fact. Like if we record on like the 11th of March.
Yeah, I'm just
know?
trying to get like talk about the movies before,
Right.
because if you see it,
My only worry is kind of what you touched on is like, are all these movies going to
Yeah.
be available for us
We'll see.
before the ceremony?
let's see what gets nominated, and then we can see what's streaming or what has a chance to stream. Because
All
like
right.
it's gonna be it might be tight trying to find these films. Because
Sure.
last year we had the luxury of finding all of them.
Mhm.
This year, I'm nervous that there might be 2 or 3 that it's just going to be like you have to pay $20 to fucking watch it.
I know The Substance is coming back out in theaters
Ooh.
on the 17th. So there's a decent chance Mubi thinks that it's going to get a nomination at the very least.
Yeah.
So you could probably catch that in theater. I would honestly go with you. It was one of my favorite movies of last year.
I'm in Lansing I got the weekend coming up going down to Lansing.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we'll see how long it's in theaters for, but
yeah,
we can litigate that another time.
Yeah,
we've got time, so you can provide a recommendation in the meantime.
Yes.
What are we gonna watch? What are we gonna discuss? What are we gonna sink our teeth in? Mackie boy.
So there's 2. I got 2. I'm gonna throw it up. I'm gonna throw.
Please don't throw up.
Right hand, left hand. Trying to think of how I describe it. There's a scene in Boogie Nights where Jackie finds the next star to take over, and Eddie's getting weeded out, and Eddie's walking in through the club and sees Jackie sitting down with his new star, and Eddie walks up and, who's this guy? There's Jackie's telling him who he is, and obviously Jackie just knows this is the line of the business. You get guys go 5 years and then they're out.
The nature of the beast.
Right. You're not a star forever, kid. There's a movie that reminded me so much of just that little scene right there. It's almost a whole movie built out, right?
Okay.
Not necessarily in the same context of it being in the porn industry, but just kind of that idea that you only have so long, The other one is I think it's like one of IMDb's top 300 movies. Set in the time of the 60s. Takes place on, I'd say, like One Crazy Night. So,
okay.
Those are your 2 options.
I do like my One Crazy Night movies, but the way you described that first one was very intriguing, and I would be remiss not to pick that one.
So that's the one?
That's the one I'm going with.
We're going to watch Behind the Candelabra.
Ooh, okay.
It is, God damn, I can never remember his name.
Steven Soderbergh?
Soderbergh depicts the a little bit of a biopic with the performer in Las Vegas. Liberace. Why the fuck did I?
Yeah,
you tried.
Yeah, god damn it. Fucking god damn it.
That's all right.
I'm an English major. I just want to remind people I went to school to study the English language.
Piece of audio will just live forever, so don't worry about it. So we're gonna watch the biopic of Liverance. You can't do that. That is you can't. Then you'd have to delete all of this, and it's just gonna be into,
I guess say goodbye to whatever it is we're talking about.
You have to
right
live
now.
with the consequences.
Don't get too attached
of
to
being
this recording
because
it might be a lost episode. This whole episode might be a wash now. Honestly, it's just
so we're gonna watch. I'm just gonna keep
point.
saying. What did you say? Liverance?
We don't need to relitigate what did not happen in this episode because it has been gone. It has been washed away like the seas of Odysseus.
Yes. Okay. Well, so Liberace, and it's a biopic about him with just who he was, and I can't wait to talk about it. This movie is one of the movies that I never get to talk about anyway. There's so many references all the time just throughout life that you get to see that come from this movie. So we're going to watch Behind the Candelabra.
Steven Soderbergh's Behind the Candelabra. The tagline, too much of a good thing is wonderful. Quite intriguing. I guess we'll figure out what other movie to pair it with.
Yeah.
Whether a streaming or a theater watch.
Amadeus.
January is a bit of a dry spell for theaters, but we'll figure something out.
God, it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like Den of Thieves right now, and
we could talk about Flight Risk, that Mark Wahlberg movie. You brought it up earlier. I'm sorry.
Well, you're the one that you still didn't say if it's got to be it's a yay or nay. I'm a nay on him.
Well,
I saw Flight Risk and he was in it. I was like, good for him.
This movie isn't even out yet. It comes out January 24th. So we might not have time to, unfortunately, talk about Flight Risk. Yeah. We'll litigate it. We'll discuss it.
Yes. Yeah. Wait, hold on. You got to give your definitive Wahlberg. It's a yes or
If I'm pro Wahlberg
red
or
pill,
no.
blue pill on Wahlberg.
Well, what's the context of the pills for Wahlberg? Like red pill is like I'm pro
His
Wahlberg.
name's in a movie. Yeah. Well, I mean, whatever. Yeah. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah. Blue pill's pro. Red pill's not pro. Right. Red's always bad.
I get, but like in the Matrix, it awakens him, right? Like because the blue
Are you
pill's like
going for a clever answer?
I'm trying to figure out what the parameters are, man.
It's just a yes or a no. You see the name. You like him enough that you're like, I'll check out that film. You don't have to be like in love with his, the actor and be like, I would see everything.
I would lean towards no.
Yes.
I would lean towards no. Just because there's certain actors where like I see their name, I'm like, gotta fucking see that.
Michael Fassbender.
Like Michael Fassbender. Tom Hardy, Keanu Reeves.
Yes.
Like
yes.
guys that are like guarantees for me.
Yes.
He's not a guarantee.
Yes. So then it
So
trickles
that's my
in.
answer.
Well, it trickles into then, all right, is he good enough? Is he second tier? And I don't even know if he's second tier for me. I agree with you. There are times where he's well equipped to be good in a film.
He's well equipped in Boogie Nights in more ways than one.
He's got that thing hanging up on a lantern.
All corroded.
So it was really funny. Just think about scrolling through IMDb trivia, and then that thing pops up, reading about that, and then it just says deteriorating, and it's like, why haven't you thrown it away? Why is that thing just sitting there?
Right. Also, how is it deteriorate? I guess because it's like fleshy material. I don't know.
It
I don't
was
wanna
made
think
out
about
of
it too much.
recycled foam and like rubber.
Yeah.
So it's not like they crafted it up brand new and it's sitting there made out of latex.
I want to know like where does the display stop? Does it stop like at the end of the shaft, or are the like
for
pubes
him it's
included?
the whole fireplace? Right. You said that thing's the thing that stabbed Moby Dick.
It's like from here to here.
Yeah.
And I pointed to my thighs
the
to my
human
stomach.
tripod is what they call them.
Yeah. Eve's burden.
That's yours. I like I'm staying with the one that I kind of created. Took a little liberty. The Sheriff of Waddingham.
I like the Sultan of Smut because it reminds me of the Sandlot.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the first thing. It's the Sultan of SWAT. The Sultan of Smut. God, did you?
Yeah.
All his porn star buddies sitting around there. They're all going off names.
We get like
The great Johnny Wad.
Yeah, it's like the recreation of the scene from Sandlot, but it's a bunch of fucking adult film stars.
Film stars. Dude, I'm pretty sure John Holmes did a robbery. Like, I'm pretty sure he got down to Desperate Times. Like, I thought I read something along those lines. Like, he was part of a heist, and like someone died.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I don't want to read his wiki because I don't want to taint my phone. But, yeah, it was on one of the trivia pieces that I read, and I was like, this John Holmes guy is fucking wild.
Well, he was definitely fucking, and that's where we're gonna end off. Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode of the Neon Crew Podcast. If you don't want to be spoiled for
Behind the Candelabra.
Behind the Candelabra.
Liberacy.
With Liberance, I think I called him. Totally didn't erase that audio at all. Be sure to check that movie before episode 88. Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel and give us some 5-star ratings on Spotify and Apple Podcasts if you haven't already. Check out our Etsy merch page. You can get yourself some cool shirts. Check out our social medias on YouTube, Facebook, community, and Instagram. Hopefully be posting more on those soon. Shout out to Gideon for doing the music. Shout out to Lauren for doing our logo design. You can find their pages down below in the description, as well as timestamps for different spots of this episode. That's right, I've been adding them to Spotify, so you should be able to do the chapters, select what discussions you want to listen to. If you haven't seen a movie yet, but you want to, hear our discussion on Boogie Nights, but you haven't seen Bucky Larson yet, you gotta rush out to see that movie.
No, you don't.
You can click the timestamps, and it'll take you to the discussions you want to hear. McLean, is there anything we want to leave off with before we wrap up?
We do it for the Sheriff of Waddingham. I'm just joking. WWTHD.
Hello, everyone. It is Kyle from the future here. I just wanted to cap off this episode by saying rest in peace, David Lynch. We all got the news on January 16th that David Lynch, legendary filmmaker, director, auteur, has passed away at the age of 78. And I figured I would get this in before the episode comes out. Otherwise, it'll be like weeks before we talk about it. But I just wanted to give a quick shout out to him. I just started watching his films this past year for the first time. I have loved every single one of them so far, and I'm excited to continue with his filmography. I'm hoping that we can discuss some David Lynch films in the future on this podcast, since we have not yet. But until then, I just wanted to leave this here and say rest in peace, David Lynch. Bye, everyone.